Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wareham Planning Board for Monday, November 27, 2023. Also available hybrid via Zoom as noted on the agenda posted on the Planning Board website. Get the meeting started with a roll call. Sherry Quirk?
Here.
Mike Baptiste?
Here.
Jane Gleason?
Here.
Sam Corbett?
Here.
Carl Schultz?
Here.
And the Chair, Michael King, is here. We have a little bit of housekeeping. So has everybody had an opportunity to read the meeting minutes of 3/8/2021, which would be me and Mike? Mike, I read it, and I honestly remember most of it, which scares me a little bit.
That's good.
So obviously, Sam, Carl, Jane, Sherry, none of you were here in 2021.
So I make the motion, you second it, and it's gone, right?
Oh, no, we can vote to accept.
You can vote to accept it into the record. Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I did note just a couple of small typos. I noted a couple of typos, which I will give to Sonia. They're not worth.
For correction, just
Yes.
spelling typos,
Exactly.
okay?
Oh, I missed those, but okay.
Yeah, no, I read it twice, too. With that noted, I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes of March 8th, 2021 into the record as presented with the notice of some indiscriminate typos.
So moved.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Second.
We have a motion by Jane Gleason, seconded by Sam Corbett. All those in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam? Carl?
You abstained. Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Meeting minutes of October 16, 2023. I read this one like 10 times. My eyes rolled back in my head.
Yeah, that was.
Luckily, I don't have to vote on this one, other than to accept it, since I wasn't here. Hmm?
Wait, that was the one where I was the chair. Oh, okay. Before we vote, I had a question for Mr. Corbett. It recorded your vote as aye, which is unusual. Usually you don't vote aye on minutes.
Minute?
For the minutes of 8:14 and 8:28.
I must have been mistaken.
All right. I don't know. It's probably not worth, unless Sam is upset. I don't know.
You might have been under the weather.
I reviewed them. I thought they were fairly complete and reasonably correct. I mean, it was a long
It
meeting.
was a long meeting.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Any other comments or concerns? Then I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes of Monday, October 16, 2023, as presented into the record.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Jane Gleason, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam? Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'm gonna take things a little bit out of order tonight, and move directly to continued public hearings, 2023 David and Lisa Mather, definitive subdivision, 24 Oak Street. I thought for the troubles that you went through at the last meeting, the least I could do is salvage tonight for you.
Thank you.
share with Jane.
I have,
I have an extra
Smoke.
one. I think this is the same as last time, right?
Yep.
Take this.
and you could send that down to those guys. I've got the drawings and I've got it here.
Okay, sir? The floor is
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering on behalf of the applicant this evening.
David Mather, the owner.
Welcome.
Thank you.
First thing I did when I got the box was I checked the cards,
Check the cards.
so we're good.
We're good.
I
Thank you.
do want to read it into the record. Out of all the abutters and the numbers match as far as what was sent out, what was received back. We do have 3 abutters that the cards were not delivered, they were returned to sender. All 3 were the same, returned to sender, vacant, unable to forward. So I just wanted to get these names into the record, so if something down the road comes up, we've identified them. Marjorie Titlebaum, 30 Oak Street.
Cease deceased.
Nancy McKay, 61 Oak Street. And Mr. and Mrs. Mather, 57 Oak Street. We didn't get your card back. So, all others were delivered and the receipts returned to the planning office. So, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this 2-lot subdivision is on 1.7 acres of land. It's a 2-lot subdivision with 1 existing house. So the end result of this would be 1 additional single-family home in the town of Wareham. The subdivision plans that we have submitted are the same, exactly the same, as the plans that were approved by this board in November of 2019, almost exactly 4 years ago, November 18th, 2019. Some of you may recall Mr. Mather came in back in August requesting an extension of the approval. The board chose not to approve that request. And so we're back before you with a new filing, and yet it's the same subdivision layout, lotting plan, road construction, and waivers, which were, again, all part of the original approval. So Quentin Way is a 40-foot wide way to create frontage for the new house lot. The existing house has frontage on Oak Street. The new lot to the rear has frontage on the Quentin Way 40-foot layout. Just flip to, this was the lotting sheet. 30,000 square foot lots with 150 foot of frontage. There's only 3 sheets in the set, so the information is on the second sheet. The roadway plan and profile. So it's a proposed 16-foot wide roadway surfaced with reprocessed asphalt. There are 8-foot shoulders on either side of the roadway, which each have crushed stone trenches in them for drainage purposes. You know, going again back in history, this plan was filed in September of 2019. There were 2 public hearings in October of 2019. The approval was in November. At the time, your engineering consultant, Mr. Rowley, was instrumental in reviewing the plans on the board's behalf, and really the main changes were related to drainage. So it's a 240-foot length of road within the layout that's only 16 feet wide, but we have crushed stone trenches for drainage on either side of the traveled way. And at the low point, we have 2 catch basins which discharge to 8 leaching galleys that are also within the layout. The next sheet is a detail sheet. I could go through those if you like. But the focus, or one of the primary benefits, if you will, of the peer review and the revisions to the design from the initial submittal is all of this drainage components to keep any water runoff out of Oak Street. So with this new submittal, the stormwater report that was submitted was the revised report just prior to approval of the subdivision. I went through it, prior to the public hearing. So the system in its entirety is sized for the 100-year storm event, 7.5 inches of rainfall in 24 hours. The infiltration rate that was used to size the system is only 2.4 inches an hour, and so although much of Wareham, including this area, is excellent sand, a lot of times we're allowed an exfiltration rate of over 8 inches an hour. We use 2.4 inches per hour for this report and for the sizing of the system. The waivers that we're requesting, which were approved, was, you'll see that there's no cul-de-sac at the end of this roadway layout. And we requested a waiver from the turnaround requirements as listed in the subdivision rules and regulations. However, we've provided a modified turnaround with references to the fire code, and it depicts the construction of a turnaround on new lot 20B. And it's really, it's the only correspondence that I'm aware of, is that we had received an email from Chris Gallen, Captain Fire Prevention. And his statement is, after reviewing the subdivision plan located at 24 Oak Street, petition 2-23, we found that the plan is acceptable. The proposed fire access turnaround meets code requirements, and it's an offer to contact his office with any additional questions.
Do we have a copy of that?
It's posted on the, I can provide you with this copy, certainly.
No, that's okay. If it's on the website, that's all I wanted to verify.
Yeah, well, there's a shortened version on the website which lists the date as sent today. So if you don't mind, I guess I would prefer to give you this copy, which has a date of November 7th.
Thank you.
It's just an email.
So other waivers, just go through the short list.
Just while you're going through, which page are the waiver requests on?
So I'm reading, so there's two spots. So in this September 26, 2023 subdivision submittal, there's a separate letter requesting waivers. So it's behind the deed, behind the abutters list, behind the filing fees, September 20.
I got it. I found it. It's the others, but I thank you. I wanted to catch up to you.
And so I believe, so chronologically, they match what I'm reading from, which is the document of approval. So sewer easements are generally 20-foot, centered on lot lines. We have a 10-foot sewer easement which connects to a new manhole at the sewer service in front of the existing house. All we're asking for is a 10-foot wide sewer easement as opposed to a 20-foot wide. There's approval for a modification of a drainage system. The specific waiver request was to not have to locate catch basins both sides of the street, 400-foot intervals. We have 2 catch basins located at the single low point, about 40 feet in, 30 to 40 feet in from the edge of pavement of Oak Street. But, so, you know, between the drainage trenches in the shoulder and the two catch basins at the low point and the leaching galleys, which are within the roadway layout, the waiver that was granted, which we would respectfully request, is a modification of a drainage system being approved as shown on the plans. Roadway shoulder waiver that we're requesting, the typical 40 or 50-foot layout has shoulders, you know, in addition to sidewalks. We're asking for shoulders to include the crushed stone drainage trenches, so that effectively you've got a 3-foot shoulder, but you've got a 1.5-foot infiltration trench and then a 1.5-foot grass shoulder before we transition to existing grades. It's a bit of a cut for this road to make suitable grades for the driveway. There's some grading that goes outside of the layout on the north side on Mr. Mather's property. So the other waiver is with respect to the road surface, and so we want reprocessed asphalt over a gravel base. I think the original subdivision road, the original filing was just a straight-up gravel, and so we got to the point where it was acceptable at the time to do it as reprocessed asphalt. And so that's a semi-pervious surface. Again, just going back to the drainage calculations, the roadway in the calculations is input as impervious. It's a 98, just as if this road was fully paved, but we're again asking for reprocessed asphalt on top of the roadway gravel. And then just street lights. We don't want to have to provide street lights for the driveway. Street trees. Street trees are typically required for shading of sidewalks and roadways in a neighborhood where sort of all those things come together: shoulders and paved sidewalks and street lights and street trees. So we don't want to have to provide street lights or street trees or sidewalks. There is no sidewalk to connect to in Oak Street, and certainly a roadway layout that serves only one house. It doesn't need a sidewalk to accommodate pedestrians. So that's the waivers, that's the submittal. As I said, the third sheet of the set are all of the construction details that go along with the design. And as far as the plans go, really all we did was put a new date on them. So there's our third sheet with the roadway cross-section, the infiltration trench detail, catch basin detail, leaching galley installation, and the sanitary sewer manhole. There's a erosion control blanket and notes detail for the 1.5 to 2 to 1 side slopes. And we would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have one question, but I don't need to go first, if you want to go.
I have a series, but others can go first.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, since I only have one, I'm going to go first. The first thing that popped into my mind was you're looking for an easement for the width of the sewer connection. Do we have a letter from the sewer department stating that the connection is approved? I mean, right now, unless I'm mistaken, there's a moratorium on connections.
So I don't know the status of that. We have a new commissioner. I don't know if you have any other knowledge of that. You know, previously, we were working with Mr. Campina. We have no comment at all at this point from any other town department other than the fire department in terms of access. There is a mandate to connect to sewer where sewer is available, and sewer is available, and we found a way to do it without entering Oak Street. And it is one single-family house, so, you know, to the extent that this board would approve this plan, it would require a connection to sewer. And if he wasn't able to get that connection, then you'd have to do something different.
Mr. Chair, on that point, before we move on to other questions, I appreciate your comment. My concern about conditioning this approval on a future approval of connection to sewer is I'm afraid Mr. Mather will find himself in the same situation he found himself in the last time, where the subdivision construction went past the 2 years, and then we have to go through the whole extension problem again. Not knowing when, if or when, the sewer moratorium would be released, I think it would be prudent to at least get some kind of input from, is Mr. Buckland on? He is. Hi, Ken.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, through you to the Director of Planning. Ken, normally when we get these subdivision plans, we send notices to all the departments. I'm assuming we sent...
To the sewer department as well.
I'm assuming, though, with all of the change and influx, I'm wondering if it fell through the cracks. Is there some step we should take?
We can send him another note and send to the new director and see if there's another response.
Okay, because I would be reluctant to move forward without knowing, you understand my point about...
Yeah, my understanding is that the department is expecting this because they connect with me every 3 months to ask me what the status is.
Okay.
And they're prepared for this connection, and...
That would be great. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, it'd be great if we could just,
Just get that in the form of a letter.
rather than conditioning the approval on,
Well, when I say that if you approve this, every single design aspect that's on this plan, when you approve it, is a requirement.
Well,
So it's not a separate condition.
well, but my point would be then, if he finds that he has to wait 2 years, then we have to go through the whole extension process again.
Okay. I mean,
If we could clear it up simply, that's my recommendation.
Did they approve did the sewer department approve the connection before?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Was that before the moratorium, though?
That was-
4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it sounds
mean-
like the sewer department is waiting for you to hook up
They're
based
waiting
on
for
that
me
previous
up
approval.
to-
And
if we could just clear it up, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
I think if
a
you could
letter
take,
from
if
the
you could
sewer
take a
department.
note, we'd be looking for a letter from the sewer commissioner.
Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Buckland was going to notify them, too.
Yeah, well,
On another
just-
committee, I was talking to Mr. Campina. I asked him about all the things that come before us. He said, unless they have a letter from me, they're not approved.
Right. That's why I think
And that's what-
he could put it on his to-do list. He needs to get a letter from the sewer commissioner. And I think, quite honestly, there should be a letter from the fire department on letterhead rather than an email stating that they approve of the design.
Which we normally get. I'm surprised that we didn't get a
Yeah.
letter from them.
Well, I think, who knows why, but
Well, we have the letter from the first approval.
Okay, I'm going to bring that up, so if you could hold that thought.
yeah, I mean, this is dated the 7th, so that was 2 weeks ago, plus 3 weeks ago. And, more than enough time to get a letter from the safety officer stating that they're fine with the design, with the turnaround. So if we can get a copy of that from the fire department, I think that'd be a big step forward as well.
I have a couple of questions that pertain to the fire department. The first one being, we do this swept path analysis for the turnaround, but we've got 10-foot radii on the curbs going into the site, and I would like some assurance that that will work for the trucks to get into the site to use the turnaround.
Yeah, it seems like a tight turn, 10 feet for a tower.
Yeah, just wondering about
Well,
swept
the
path.
only correspondence that we have states that the access is suitable and meets their requirements.
Well, if you can get
But
that
if-
from them in a letter.
So, okay.
Yep.
I mean, we're being asked to direct a town department, and
well-
perhaps Mr. Buckland could assist, provide some assistance with that,
I'm sure Ken would be happy to assist.
so.
All we're trying to get across is that an email does not constitute a legal document.
And traditionally, we get a
Isn't that
signed,
what it says at the bottom, and find that this Commonwealth of Massachusetts considers email to be legal correspondence? And that's why there's all kind of disclaimers that if you got this and you weren't supposed to receive it,
you, c- not saying
all
you
I'm
did,
saying is,
anybody could type.
Yeah, this just says
we
confidential.
can ask, we can't
Well,
force.
we're gonna be looking for it, so just take it for what it's worth.
Well, and as far as the access to the site, I think I would love to see in that letter just some specific language that says that he looked at that. He could easily look at these drawings and look at the swept path analysis and go, oh, that's fine, but not pay attention to the rest of it.
The
And-
turn off of Oak Street.
And if he can't get a truck into the site, then it's fine that the fire access turnaround works, but he can't even get to that.
And we've also recently had the fire department before us saying that they're not sure which truck they'll send where, and Tower One needs a lot of space. So I think that may be prompting concern for all of us, that we have new information on what may be needed.
And I'm gonna go even one step further and say that I'd like him to also state that he's aware of the pitch of the road, because it's at a very steep pitch. And I mean, we do these swept path analyses, and that's only in plan view, it's not in section view. You've got the roadway profile, which is great, but I wanna know that a truck can maneuver that without bottoming out. So, those are the two things that I would just like to hear from the fire department, that they have looked at those in addition to the turnaround.
Yeah. And Ken, if you could just ask them to note that in the letter of approval. So,
Will do.
thank you. More?
I noticed Jane finished,
Um,
then we'll let Sherry was
Oh,
before
Sherry
me.
can't talk.
yeah, I think I'm finished.
Sherry?
Okay, so only one area of inquiry from me, which is the drainage report that you submitted is dated 2019. It's what you submitted with a previous application.
That's correct.
And I just want to verify that nothing has changed since then. You referenced the 100-year flood. We have, new regulations all the time. Is there anything new that would affect this, how the report should be done, that would require some kind of updating of it or preparation of a new study? And I think,
To that, I was going to build, because that was the MS4 stormwater regulations have changed.
right.
So this at least needs to be updated to incorporate the MS4 stormwater regulations.
So I would disagree with that in the fact that we are not connecting to the towns. There is no drainage system for us to connect
Okay,
into
so
Oak Street.
you're not connected.
And
Okay,
we-
thank you.
But that's part of the question. That
So my answer is no. There has not been a material change in the subdivision rules and regulations as it pertains to drainage in the last 4 years.
And
And so, beyond that, there is an exemption in the DEP Stormwater Handbook for subdivisions of 4 or fewer single-family residences. And so, but what we've done is show that all of the road construction, all of the runoff from the road construction and the area that drains toward the road is collected and treated and infiltrated on the property up to a 100-year storm, which is beyond what is required in the subdivision control.
And is the definition of a 100-year storm the same today as it was when you prepared this report? I know those
It's the-
factors can change, and I
Yes,
just want to
that-
verify.
You're 100% correct, but that's why we use the NOAA. It's the NOAA website, which is updated once in a while. I'm trying to see if I have the reference to it here, but we always, print out a new one. So it's NOAA Atlas 10 version 3, but so the 100-year storm is 7.59 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. We get storms, and obviously the intensity varies, but a rainfall event of 7.6 inches is very significant.
That's what you used for this report, and that's what's still used today?
We've listed the 2-year, 10-year, 25, and 100-year, and we've ensured that the trenches and the galley system, combined with the exfiltration rate of 2.4 inches per hour, which is a conservative slow rate.
I'm not quite hearing what I'm looking for, which is that the measure of a 100-year storm is the same today.
It is, ma'am,
Okay,
based on the NOAA information.
thank you. That's all I have.
Just to follow up on that, the stormwater report is not included here. Is that?
Stormwater report was absolutely submitted.
Wait, hang on. It wasn't in the package that was handed to me. Thank you. I got it.
There's only 2 copies.
Okay.
Not 6.
Is it posted on the website, Ken?
It is.
It is.
That was my question. Okay, you're very defensive.
Yes, I am. Yes, I feel for Mr. Mather, and, when you go through all the nitty-gritty of the subdivision rules and regulations, you find a sentence that says that if you haven't constructed your subdivision within a 2-year time period from approval, then the approval is null and void.
That is there, and that is what it says. So.
And it isn't in the decision, and it isn't
It's-
common knowledge. And all I'm saying is,
not gonna argue that.
All right, and I don't expect you to take me to task for following the bylaws.
Right.
And I'm not.
You-
I'm not.
All right, so the other thing then that we'll need is we'll need the stormwater report with a current date on it.
With what? Excuse me?
Current date.
Okay.
Now, the one we have is from 2019.
Right.
But it is, to clarify, when you said it's posted on the website, this is going to go to my question in a minute. Is it posted under the old plan, or is it posted under the new plan?
It's the current filing.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank
current.
you. That's, I missed it, and I've got it now. That was going to be my question. Are you ready for my question?
I am.
Thank you. Hang on, let me get back to my notes. Just for my records, you made reference to the prior approval. Do you remember the date or the number of that project? Just for my records, so I can go back and look for it. If not, I'll go look for it. I just don't remember it. That's leading to a question I'm gonna ask, so,
I'm not seeing one jumping out at me.
okay.
I see all the dates listed for,
I'll
but
figure that out. So my question is, you've made reference to Mr. Rowley's report and several other documents. I'm wondering if you are, if it's, and this is maybe a question through the chair to Mr. Buckland, do we need to, want to incorporate by reference for the record all of those documents from the previous submission? Is that important? Would that help the application? Is there something you're relying on in that previous application for this application?
Well, it certainly, that's, seems the reasonable and common sense place to start, that we had an approval. It's not ancient history. It was November 2019. We still have several, at least 2 board members who voted positively in favor of that. And I guess if it's a little selfish on my part to stress that as
No, you
being-
can, but in order to put them on the record, then I think we should officially put them on the record.
I mean, I think what we're required to, and that's fine, that's not for us to say one way or the other.
You're not asking for that, so I'm not going to make that motion. So my request is, I haven't seen Mr. Rowley's peer review from the other, I think we need a peer review for this application.
I would agree, if we don't have access to
And-
Mr. Rowley's.
Or even access to Mr. Rowley if there were questions we don't understand. So I do think we should get a peer review. Some other questions regarding some recent, perhaps in your opinion, overly pedantic reviews. Who's going to own the road at the end? What the plans for road ownership? Are you, Mr. Mathers, going to retain ownership of the road?
It's going to be owned, there's notations on the plan that the ownership of the layout goes with the rear lot.
Ownership of the layout.
So if and when he sells the rear lot and there's a house on it, it's solely that person's responsibility to maintain the roadway.
So there would have to be a covenant of some sort stating
See,
such.
okay, that's fine, it's just that's clear. It's the same with maintenance of the stormwater system, catch basements, catchments. Who's gonna have responsibility for maintenance of those?
That future lot owner.
That will also be then,
Correct.
Recorded.
It'll be a private road layout.
right. So my only request, and perhaps we need to note it in any final approval, is we've had applicants come in who are unaware that the title of their property had those requirements. So we should just make sure if you should sell it and you title it, just give them clear notice. It's caused some confusion. Sewer, we talked about. Peer review. I'll figure out what the prior plan was. Mike showed me the stormwater plan. I have to go find it.
The prior number was 3019.
Oh, 3019. Thank you, Ken.
It wasn't posted on the town website, though. It was before we posted them.
So all those records aren't really available to us anyway. Okay. So we wouldn't have a copy of Mr. Rowley's review to look at least from the website. All right, so,
And the result of the hearing process and the review and the acceptance of that review was an approval.
no, I believe there's no question of that. We need to get our own peer review, I guess. Those were thank you for the ownership of the road, stormwater management. We need to remember to put a note on the approval. We took care of the green cards. MS4 regulations don't apply. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Sam? Mike?
Well, I think Kyle's getting a little aggravated. The report on the water runoff on the road was quite intensive when we did that. I happened to be here when this was approved in 19. I think all the aspects were covered, what we normally do, Kyle. And I think if you refer back to the old hearing, you'll see all that in there.
But it's not on the record, which is why I asked if we were going to bring the record forward. It's not available to me, Mike, that prior record.
If you look in the old file, you probably,
It's not available to me. Ken just said it's not posted.
Ken, is it available in hard form? filed?
Yes, it is. It's available. It's in our storage area.
What kind of Herculean feats is it gonna take to get it out of storage for Carl to review?
But it's not going to be on the record if I go review it.
No, but if we bring it to the next meeting and put it on the
Okay,
record,
well, that's fine. Yes.
We could do
Putting
that.
Burden of work on me, that should be the applicant's job. I will go talk to Ken about getting a copy of the record.
anything else, Mike?
No?
So,
I think it's unfair to expect me to rely on stuff from 5 years ago that isn't readily available.
I agree.
Well, I mean, now Mike is upset with me.
No, I'm not. I didn't throw nothing at your car, Carl. I didn't see nothing bad. You're still my buddy.
So if I'm hearing everything correctly, then, in order to move this forward, we're looking for a formal letter from the Sewer Commission approving the connection, a formal letter from the fire department confirming access to not only Quinton Way off of Oak Street, but also, well, the Hammerhead they've already confirmed, but we need it in on letterhead, Wareham Fire Department letterhead. We don't, barring you not being able to get access to the records, I don't think we need to get a peer review at this point, do we?
Why not? Well, they're asking for waivers, so I'm not,
Well, the waivers, I think we're more than,
not,
based on their waiver requests, I think we're more than qualified to say yes or no.
street trees, sidewalks.
Yeah, I mean, it's all really basic things.
No, I'm not comfortable with, all roads shall have 2 6-inch courses of gravel and 2 courses of Class 1 bituminous concrete type 1-2. I don't know if that's adequate for a road or not.
Well, I think that's the actual,
Oh, that's the
that's what's requirement.
Well, okay, but a waiver from that, I'm not qualified to.
2 6-inch layers of reprocessed asphalt.
That was actually one of my questions, was about whether that,
Normally, we
Works
got
on
a
a-
review from Charlie on
on
the
a
road.
pitch of
yeah,
10%.
Yeah. And I'm not,
Well, I will say, to Mike's point, I do remember this project, and I do remember Charlie going over the drainage and the road construction and everything. I mean, I think we went through 2 or 3 different
spent a
meetings.
lot of time
We
on
spent a
that.
lot of, especially on the drainage,
And a lot of money.
because there was a lot of concern about
concern was
the
the
properties on the other side of
I
Oak Street.
appreciate that. And you can vote based on that knowledge, and I'll vote based on my knowledge.
Well, I'm not gonna vote on anything tonight. I'm just saying, if you wanna review Charlie's work, which I think is completely legitimate, that's fine. But based on all the other conditions that they're asking for, I don't see anything earth-shattering in there. The only thing I see that looks like you'd wanna get some clarification on is the road construction
And the stormwater report,
in the stormwater report, which,
which they're not asking for a waiver on, but it's part of the submission.
right, but the stormwater report is, the one we have in our hands is the same one that Charlie reviewed. So, the only hook is the date's wrong.
But I don't have Charlie's review.
Understood. So if you go and find
So
Charlie's
if the onus
document.
is now on me,
Well, either that or you can abstain from.
no.
I mean, that's your call.
Okay. Discussion's ended. You can move forward as you see fit.
Well, Sherry, what do you think?
I mean, it sounds like we need a little bit more time to do some due diligence.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I certainly am not gonna ask for a vote tonight to
Yeah.
approve, conditioned or otherwise.
Well, no, you've certainly given us a list of things to come back with
Right.
as soon as we can.
And I don't think any of it's insurmountable. It's just all crossing Ts and dotting Is.
I would agree, and we still need to hear from the public, as part of this hearing. But, you know, in terms of the road surface, Mr. Schultz, the roadway surface is appropriate as it relates to traffic and the anticipated use. And so we have the specific use of a one single-family house and the traffic that's associated with that, which is generally calculated at 10 trips a day.
I appreciate
So
that,
if we,
Mr. Rogers, and I understand that you're an engineer that knows that in depth. I don't.
well, just, you know, envision a single-family driveway home, you know, access to a home. This is a Cadillac version of access to one house, I would submit.
Okay. I appreciate that, and I believe that you wouldn't design a road that you thought was inadequate, but,
No, and but again, so, you know, I don't, you
and I'm
know,
not accusing you of that.
I don't mean, like I said, it's not, to me, it's not making work for you, but we didn't start with this plan. We submitted in September and 2 hearings in October and an approval at a meeting in November. And so this wasn't GAF's starting point on behalf of Mr. Mather. This was our finish point in order to satisfy the town.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is, you've got a lot of history, you've put a lot into this, but for us, those of us who were not on the planning board when you presented this and it was approved the first time, we don't have that history, and I think in order to become comfortable, it's gonna be, I think, necessary to have some understanding of what went into that decision, and finding what went into the decision, you know, may be complicated, but anything that you have from the record before, I think would be helpful. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we'll work with Mr. Buckland on that. If there's anything that he can't put his hands on that we have, we'll certainly.
I think that'd help a lot.
Okay, so we have our homework. So if you're done presenting, then I would open it up to the public, if there's anybody in the gallery.
You just need to read and open it for, we have to take a vote to open the
To
public
open,
hearing.
okay, so before the public comes up for comment, entertain a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Did we open it? We did, oh, you know what?
It's been open,
I'm sorry, well,
We
thank
did
you.
open
We opened it and then we
continued it.
continued it immediately.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. I forget what I said.
Okay. All right, having said that, I saw a young lady. Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Just gonna give her a seat at the table.
Can I sit right here?
Yes, ma'am, you sit anywhere you want.
I'll stand up, okay. My name is Judy Weatherby. I live at 59 Oak Street. 59 is directly across from 24 on Oak Street. So this property is right across the street from us. I have a lot of questions. A subdivision to me means more than one building. Is there going to be more than one house put up there?
Well,
Is there a possibility in the future?
There'll be two.
there'll be two, the existing
one
one
that's
and one
existing.
new one.
Right,
There's
The one that's already there?
correct.
There's
It's
one
part of the
existing.
subdivision, yeah.
So if it, then why is it named Quinton Way? Why isn't it just somebody's driveway? And if that person, you know, I'm just concerned, and it's just, to me, a Quinton's Way it's like a public road to go up there, and possibility in the future, more homes could go behind that.
Past this,
Not with this subdivision approval, but
it would have to go, if there was, at some point in the future, if Mr. Mather wanted to extend Quinton Way
He could add 2 more homes?
to another piece of property that may be behind this one,
Okay,
process would have to start all over again.
right, but right now, it's only for 1 home, but there's a possibility it could be 2 or 3.
Anything in this world is possible.
Okay.
Well, I would, if I could, I would say it's an impossibility, because the town owns the property behind this property. So Mr. Mather only controls this one single lot, and this is the extent of it. We cannot possibly get anything other than this one lot, and that's all we're asking for. And so this could not be extended. There isn't.
By today, by what we're dealing with today.
And maybe,
Can't be
Exact-
extended.
Correct.
Nobody knows what tomorrow's gonna bring. And I understand her concern. So the town owns the land behind you. That's great. I understand that.
Is there a boundary on how close you can build to the town forest? Because that's the land behind it.
It would have to abide by the zoning bylaw setback. So it would be from the back of this 20 feet.
so one thing that hasn't been mentioned, the reason that they did that roadway is because the way the lot is right now is a single lot. There's not the correct amount of frontage to get a second lot out of it. So they built the road so that they could get the 150
Create.
feet of frontage
Okay.
on a road. So maybe that will answer your question, that that's the whole reason for doing a road instead of just a driveway.
And one other comment, we're not approving as part of the subdivision anything that gets constructed on that lot. At that time, if whoever, Mr. Mather, whoever decides to develop that lot would have to go get a building permit, would have to go through Conservation Commission. I don't know if there's wetlands involved. We don't consider wetlands as part of the subdivision. Did we look at the lot circle? We didn't talk about the lot
The
circle.
lot circle is adequate.
We didn't talk about it. I haven't looked at the plan yet. So there would be another step, at least, if Mr. Mather, if and when he decides to actually construct,
Another property.
no, on the property that we're talking about. He can't, this approval, this subdivision approval, is not an approval to build anything. It's only an approval for the road.
Okay.
So he will have to, am I?
You're correct.
Yeah, I'm just trying to assuage her that there's other steps that he's gonna have to go through before he can complete his vision.
Okay. And the biggest concern I have is the property is much higher than my street, okay, Oak Street. It's the wash, and I've been listening to all this construction about this stuff, and I'm not a contractor, but it sounds like they're taking that into consideration with the drainage coming down. You know, they've got to have big equipment to go up and put in water mains, sewerage, construction. There's got to be a big, not just a little pathway like now, a driveway. It's got to be a big road to get those trucks up in there. So I'm nervous about all the mud coming right into my yard, my driveway.
Well, and
So-
part of the approval is,
Would they have to have that done before the construction starts up there
construction, what do you mean?
for the new home?
Well, of course, I mean, you.
They would have to have the roadway,
The roadway, this approval would give them the lot that he's desiring, the access, which is the roadway, all of that would have to exist before the town would grant a building permit.
okay. So there won't be a lot of mud coming right at me.
As a contractor, whoever the contractor is, they're required to put in erosion control measures.
Okay,
So, you know, will there be some dirty water that goes down onto Oak Street? Probably. But will there be, you know, hordes of mud coming down if it happens to rain? No. They have to put measures in to control that.
okay, okay. Right, but when the final road or driveway, whatever it is gonna be, is put in, it will have all those requirements about the drainage and so forth. Okay, that answers my questions.
Mike, you want to say something?
If we added a note on there that road is to service that one lot in perpetuity, that would take care of it if it's on the print.
Yeah, true.
Because that would, they couldn't subdivide or use it for anything else.
Yep. Is that it,
Okay.
ma'am?
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anybody else here or online? Not at this time. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so. This is a somewhat easy list that we've sent you off with, so would you be comfortable with Monday, the 8th of January?
Yes.
No,
Is there,
I don't think we have room before then. I don't have my, do
I have one meeting.
we only have one meeting in December.
That's it. The 11th is
And I-
it. The next one's Christmas.
Right.
Next Monday.
And I'm pretty sure, let me just check to see if I have my planner. Ah, I do. Good. Yeah, and we've got 3 solar projects already scheduled for the 11th, so that night's gonna be wall-to-wall already. So I would ask if the 8th would work for you.
Yeah, it'll
Plus,
work.
tentatively, Fearing Hill is scheduled for that night. Oh, that was one of the 3?
It's one of the 3,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, January 8th is fine.
Okay, thank you so much, we appreciate that. So, hearing no other input from the,
Can I have that copy of the stormwater report to take, so I can read it?
mine has notes on it.
I don't care if it's got, as long as, I'll give it back to you. I'll just take it home and scan it and give this back to you.
Hearing no other requests for input from the public, I would entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until the meeting of Monday, January 8, 2024.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Sherry Quirk. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you so much.
Aye. Okay. Next up would be discussion and possible vote for RE rules and regs, notice to abutters, change of responsibility for mailings to applicant. This all came about actually because of the applicant that just left. So it came, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, I just want to make sure I get this right. So it came to my attention that the bylaws show that the onus of notification of abutters and the proof thereof falls on the applicant and not the planning office. But that over time, for whatever reason, the planning office has adopted this responsibility. Is that accurate?
Almost. State law says that notice has to go out to abutters, but doesn't say who's responsible for it. All it does is say that notice has to go out to abutters for special permits. And over time, it depends on the town as to whether or not they trust the developers, the applicants, or themselves take on the responsibility to notify the abutters, to send out the notices by certified mail. So in this case, what we're doing is we're saying, let's maybe rethink this at this point and take some of the burden off of the planning office and put it on to the applicants. We'd have to go out to a public hearing on this for a change to rules and regulations.
We have an open public hearing on changes to rules and regulations, which was already still open and continued. And we're actually working on site plan special permit, but I have a question through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Buckland. The issue at hand that raised this was a subdivision, and I have put forth that the subdivision rules and regulations, Section E, paragraph 2, already puts the onus on the applicant for subdivisions. Not for A&Rs, we'd have to talk about A&R. Well, A&Rs don't require notice, but for subdivision, the rules and regulations, Section E, paragraph 2, says that the responsibility is the applicant for subdivisions.
That's right. But in what's been a pattern that has taken hold in the town before my time, they decided that they wanted the town, the planning office, to be responsible for sending out the public notices.
Okay, so,
So I guess the question is, do we continue with the present practice and continue to overburden the planning office, which consists basically of you and one person? Or do we go back to the rules, rules and regs and put the burden on the applicant with their responsibility being notifying the abutters and then delivering the mailing receipts and green cards and undeliverables to the planning office prior to the hearing, so that they can be
But-
included in the packet?
That would only apply to the subdivisions. That wouldn't apply to the special permits and the site plan reviews.
But we can, if we talk about this in an open hearing, public hearing, and make that change, is that a good thing for the planning office to reduce some of the burden?
I'm not going to say no. I'd appreciate that.
Well, and how does it, do we need, I mean, we've already had one person from the ZBA weigh in on this. Do we need to get some formal input from the ZBA as a board?
No, we don't. The ZBA can make their decision as they see fit. You, as a board, have your own rules and regulations, and you can,
It's just us. Now, does that cause more confusion?
Yep.
Because now you got two boards doing two different things.
It's just us.
So do you want to bring this subject up during the public hearing for the rules and regs that's already scheduled?
well, we can do that for land use, for site plan review, special permit, but, yes, so we could discuss it at that time for that, but we're perfectly open to discussing enforcing the existing rules and regulations, which would be a change in practice, which Mr. Akabachi noted that some notice and some form changes and process changes might have to occur. But that's not a change in the rules and regulations. That's merely, it's a change in,
Adhering to it,
yeah.
right?
So, that really is us in collaboration with Mr. Buckland and weighing, or in considering Mr. Akabachi's comments, some of which were reasonable. Okay, if you're going to change what we do, you got to let people know. It's sort of to net it out.
Yep. No, I agree.
But Ken's office is,
Overwhelmed,
well, or understaffed, or both.
or both, right?
So I don't know, do you want to move forward on this?
I don't know. What do you guys think? We upset the apple cart? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Or do we leave things the way they are and
Enforce.
I think it makes a lot of sense to move to what the rules and regs say and take a burden off of the planning office. It has too many burdens already.
And then we can add that to what we'll bring forward for the land use, whatever we end up calling that. And I don't know what's in the WV1R procedures. I don't know, was there notice included in there?
No.
it follows the same procedure as the special permit.
Okay. So if we fix it in those rules and regs, then, so you want us to continue moving forward on that?
I personally think it's a good idea.
There is precedent for doing it this way, with having the applicant seek the green cards. That's what I remember from my professional days, that we always had to send out the notifications, including all of the ones that Ken is saying that the planning office would do to the state and so on and so forth. So I think splitting that up may make sense.
Okay, so from your perspective, Ken, it would just mean a amendment to the documentation that the planning office gives applicants when they come in to notify them of the fact that this is, you know, a duty of theirs, and that it'll have all the appropriate information as far as who needs to be notified, how, and that the proof of that notification or attempted notification comes back to the planning office before the day of the hearing.
I would like to have it in the rules and regulations so that it's clearly established that they have to do it,
So,
and what they have to do in terms of notifications.
We're working on.
right, so do we leave it status quo then until that point? Is that what you're suggesting?
If we want to try it without the rules and regulations, we can go ahead and do that and see if there's a response, if somebody kicks back at us.
Well, you pointed out that it's already a requirement for the subdivision.
It's already a requirement for the subdivision. We're working on clarifying site plan review, special permit rules and regs.
So we can move forward with making it the developer's responsibility on subdivisions moving forward, regardless of how long it takes us to get to the rules and regs amendment.
Do you want to have a different process?
Well, that's what I was asking.
They have to be notified so they know what to do.
Right. So we've got to update, if we're going to change the application forms and the, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd bring back the application forms to the board and have you approve them as well.
Oh, yeah, okay, the edits to the forms?
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I'm sure we'll probably hear more input from other boards before this is over, so.
Input is great, but it's our decision for our rules and regs.
Yeah, no, just in the spirit of cooperation. Okay, any other discussion on this particular subject?
While we're on this subject, then, we have an open public hearing to discuss the land use rules and regulations. It was continued until tonight. Fortunately, it's not on the agenda, and we didn't post the updated document. So I move that we continue the currently open public hearing on rules and
and regs.
regulations.
Do you want to go for the 8th, or do you want to go for the 22nd?
Of January?
Mhm.
What do you want, Sherry? 22nd? Is there a sense of urgency at this point? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, we can move it
So-
out to February if you want.
No, the question would be bringing it in sooner.
But we've got the new bylaws passed at town meeting.
But we haven't heard from the AG yet.
Right. So whatever the rules and regulations are, the bylaws are probably in a sort of a state of uncertainty at this point. So we probably have a little bit more time and could wait until the 22nd.
Okay, so I move that we continue the open public hearing on what, I don't know, we were calling land use rules and regulations, which will really deal with site plan special permit until the 22nd.
Second.
We have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Mr. Chairman,
was
along
the
the
date?
same vein, we have a long-standing set of updates to the subdivision rules and regulations, which Sam worked on, I worked on a little bit, Charlie worked on, Ken updated for MS4. I think we need to bring those forward, so I move that we set up a public hearing on the 22nd. Ken, are we ready to really revisit the subdivision rules and regs? I think all the updates have been made.
Yeah, I think we got a good document to take to public hearing at this point.
Wait, I know what we were waiting for, the cross-sections. Do we have to get?
That's right, the graphics.
Do we have to get those before we do that?
No, we don't.
Okay, and you're gonna contract with someone to work on that next year, right?
We're getting it free from Allen and Major.
Oh,
Even better.
okay. So then I move that we bring forward what we've got, and then if we have to add updated excuse me, may I ask Mr. Cordiero a question?
Have at it.
What do you think the timing on the cross-sections is?
Phil Cordero, Allen and Major. We'll work very expeditiously to get them done. We don't know yet through Mr. Buckland what you need. So generate a list for us and we'll turn them around pretty quick.
But we're talking 2 months, right?
For us, easily within that time frame. Yeah, so if you said 2 months.
Assuming the contract holds, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so if it's not ready, it's not ready, and we can,
We'll just move it forward.
but we're gonna shoot for the 22nd.
Sure.
Perfect. All right, so we have a motion to place on the agenda for 1/22/24, the subdivision. What do you call it, open?
Well, we need a public hearing to update. Right now, we're working on a version that was created in 2013, and there's been,
Couple of changes since then.
yeah, well, a couple of needed changes,
Yep.
particularly the MS4.
Yep, okay.
But we did wording changes and other clarifications.
So we need, your motion is to have this public meeting on January 22
Right. Open the public hearing.
of 2024. Yeah.
Right, which means we have to have things posted ahead of time, all that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, next up, for discussion and possible vote to Hornet Pond South subdivision, release of performance bond. Do we have somebody from that?
Good evening.
Nothing on that.
Michael McVeigh from 80 Makepeace, 158 Tyonet.
So,
Here hopefully to, achieve the planning board's recommendation that the performance bond be released.
I have absolutely zero documentation on this project.
We got a late email from Sonia from Mr. Cordiero, but I have a list of questions, so.
Okay, fire away with your questions.
Do you want to say anything before?
Well, to the extent, it's necessary, got into this midstream. This has been handled by a gentleman named Joe Rapetti, who was ill tonight, couldn't make it. My introduction to this project was we had to perform top coating on, it's actually not Tyonet South, I see that's written on the agenda. It's Crane Landing, which is sometimes known as Tyonet North.
Even discussing the Ray project?
That's a good question. So Hornet South is the other one, the smaller subdivision?
That's yeah, correct.
Okay, well, that creates a problem. Do we know what we're really talking about, Ken?
No, I'm not familiar with this one.
Because I used to live on Red Pine in the
Yeah,
smaller
which is
subdivision.
closer to Tyonet
I've
Pond.
never heard either one of them
Yeah.
referred to as south or north.
Well, Mr. Cadiro's here, maybe he can shed some, I've never met the gentleman, but essentially about a month ago, I understood from Mr. Rapetti that we had finished we were about to finish the top coating requirement. We made the decision to top coat, not just finish the top coat on the roadways like we had to, but also the pathways at a pretty substantial expense, just to keep folks happy. Essentially, I walked into Mr. Buckland's office and asked what's required to get a recommendation to release the funds. And in his office, he drafted an email to Mr. Cadero. It's essentially, it's what's right here in front of me, saying the work that was necessary has been performed. It can now go to the planning board. I asked Sonia if we could get on the next available planning board, which is tonight. Here I am.
Bill, could you come forward? So I'm lost. This thing's like 15 years old, right?
So I think it's actually 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found a covenant release from 2003 that's in my packet. So,
So by them putting the top coat on, in your inspection, what does that do for us as far as, or in the way of final inspections, as-built?
So, for the record, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major. Mr. Chair, in terms of what we've reviewed, forgive me in that I don't know the designation Tyhonet Pond North or South. We only know it as Crane Landing, so.
Which is accurate.
Okay. So forgive me for not being able to provide any clarity there. We've reviewed the record that was available in terms of the age of the subdivision, the amount of inspections that were done, the materials that were available to us. At that point in October, the only thing that was outstanding was putting top coat pavement down. So at this point, they will have satisfied all of the typical requirements to close out a subdivision. And that's what we noted in our letter to the board dated November 7. So we would recommend to you that whatever action this board is comfortable taking on the application is appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Cordiero. Just regarding that comment you just made, what was required to come, did you read the subdivision rules and regulations?
Did I read the subdivision rules and regulations? I did. Did I read them specifically for this? I guess the true answer is no.
Okay, because that's what I'm going to bring up, is
Yeah.
all the requirements for closing it out. And so I'll wait for my turn. But, okay, so I'll bring up the points of the subdivision, which you heard Mr. Rogers call me to task for earlier. But I'm going to bring them up again,
Well,
and you guys can act on them, but,
you have the floor.
no,
Mike?
okay.
Yeah.
So, right now, we're working off the 2013 rules and regulations. And upon, the rules and regulations say, upon completion of the constructions of ways and the installation of municipal services in accordance with sections 5 and 6 of these rules and regulations, security for the performance of which was given by bond, deposit covenant, et cetera, the applicant shall send registered mail to the town clerk. Have we sent a registered mail to the town clerk, notifying them of completion?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through, and then we'll discuss what all this might mean. That's supposed to happen before we can release. Then the planning board will send a written statement that said construction or installation in connection of which such bond deposit covenant has been completed, and containing the, if the planning board determines that said construction has been completed, it shall release the interest of the town. So we just, checking the boxes, we just need to send, I think, a certified letter to the clerk. My next question is, have we confirmed that all of the deeds, covenants, et cetera, have been properly filed with the Plymouth Registry of Deeds and copies have been provided to the town clerk?
I did not do
Yeah, well,
that.
we should just, again, I'm just trying to close off all the, so we should make sure that this is all properly recorded at the Plymouth Registry of Deeds, and the town has copies of those records. Just, I'm doing paperwork, which, okay. Just another question, just a point of information. Who owns the roadway?
The town will ultimately own the road.
No, that
Who
you,
owns it now?
who owns it now?
Makepeace.
Makepeace or the homeowners association? Because that's old enough that Makepeace would have turned the HOA over to them already.
Is there an HOA?
There is an HOA, yeah.
And we should, then we need to confirm who owns the roadway. And the town is not accepting new roadways at this time. So if your plan is to turn it over to the town, that's something that we shouldn't overlook.
Well,
That's not, we don't have to deal with that releasing
yeah,
the covenant.
but just
we
to
should-
add color to it, I agree with everything you said, 100%. And based on my experience living at the other small subdivision, the subdivision owned the roadway, the homeowners association maintained the road, maintained the drainage. It was all transferred to them when Makepeace the way the HOA was written, and I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say they're probably the same document as far as format, was when the last house lot was built, the HOA was turned over in its entirety to the neighborhood. Makepeace took their seat of the HOA out.
Right.
And it was all on them.
And while that's not strictly required,
That's the way it was written, though.
no, what I'm saying is, in terms of releasing the bond, I think, given that we're having discussions about old subdivisions, and we should at least make sure the paperwork is all properly filed and the titles are all properly noted. So just, if you could close that out, paperwork, not, okay. This is me being strict again. This was supposed to have been completed within 24 months, or it was automatically rescinded. We need to deal with that fact that that's in the bylaw, and we're not dealing with it. Why have it in the bylaw if we're not going to follow it, enforce it? There was no proper extension filed for. If we're not going to be able to do it, then we should discuss why it's there and what to do about that clause. It's not, this is a process question for us. So this should have been completed within 2 years, and if it wasn't, then an extension should have been filed for, which it wasn't. That's a problem. It's a process problem. It's 20 years old, we'll figure it out. Okay. Did we get an as-built plan, a stamped as-built plan?
I cannot confirm that we have a stamped as-built plan.
Okay, that's a requirement. Do you know if there's a stamped as-built plan?
I don't, as built as far as the lots or as far as the
Subdivision, we're talking about the subdivision, the roadway, the
Yeah.
sewers,
I mean, that's a built-out subdivision, so
Somewhere
I don't
along-
have the answer to your question, but I imagine it's.
Somewhere along the line, the
yeah,
as-built
I'm
had
sure
to
it's been
come into
submitted.
existence.
And if it's not, then we have to talk about what that means. Okay, now, I know everybody's coming this late. Do we have the Form N, which lists all of the inspections, all the inspection dates, copies of all of it, and guarantees shall not be released until Form N has been submitted and approved by the planning board. And I don't know if we're going to hold them for that. It's 20 years old, but it should be, list all the inspections, all the inspection paperwork. Again,
Can that paperwork even be retrieved?
I'm bringing up, we have rules and regulations that we at least should talk about. And if we can't apply them, then we have to formally note that. But at least I can ask, do we have all the inspections? Back to the beginning.
I don't have record of going back to the beginning, sir. We have the dates, in our most recent letter, we have the dates of the more recent inspections, of course, including the top coat,
What would more recent mean?
within the last couple of months as they were
That's pretty
completing the
recent.
work. Pretty recent.
Why did it take 20 years to complete this subdivision?
Well, look, without, I haven't been working on this part of the company ever, but it's been built out, I think, for some amount of time. I think the last lot was in the last few years.
Yeah, well, the lots,
Right, but I think that they just leave the binder coat on, and so as not to have to, construction trucks don't ruin it, finish top coat if they're still building homes.
They did
I
the
think-
same thing in my neighborhood.
we should not have, either we should not have this requirement, or we shouldn't have rules in
Well, the
subdivision.
binder coat and the top coat, I have to agree with. Because, construction equipment's gonna tear up a brand-new road. So I can definitely agree with leaving the binder coat on till the last house is built.
Then we need to fix the rules and regulations.
It does state that in, yes, I agree, but it does state that in the HOA documents, that the top coat of the road will not be applied until the last home is built.
But I want to bring up, HOA documents are not subdivision
I understand.
that we approve.
But I think out of everything we're talking about here, the top coat is the least of our concerns. The fact that there's no as-built, there's no list of inspections,
I just wanted to know why it took so long.
Well,
To-
I don't know. I mean, it is a fairly large subdivision.
Yeah.
There's
And-
gotta be, what, 40 homes in there?
Okay, so what I would argue then is the process anticipates this, which says every 2 years, you come back and ask for an extension. And you say, we don't want to put the binder and top coat on because we have 5 more lots. 2 years later, we want another extension because it keeps the paperwork and the flow and everything organized. Or let's take the requirement out.
Well, no, I think the two-year timeframe is good. I think we've done a poor job of even talking about it, much less enforcing it.
Right.
It's just never come to the table until the last few months.
I understand.
So we take that forward, and the planning office
I-
has to make the applicant, well, we have to have a running doc of open subdivision so that we know who's ready for an extension,
Right.
which is on the planning office. But
And
still, again, I think there's some misses in the process on their part. The certified letter to the clerk is a miss on their part.
Do we know that?
Well,
Yeah,
that was
I'm-
my question. If
It's a
been-
requirement. Well, it's not in the document, so
I mean,
I gotta
if-
believe.
if I may, Mr. Chair.
Well, I'm asking.
I agree.
Yeah, and to Mr. Schultz, you know, these are all valid concerns. I consider myself a rule follower. I like structure. I like clicking boxes. I would just submit, you know, in this case, in good faith, went to the town, got some guidance. I don't want this case to be the test case and the referendum on
It's not.
subdivision
So,
rules.
As you heard from Mr. Rogers,
Yeah.
you're not the test case.
Right.
And there was even another one since then.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we've absolutely performed to the bond, over exceeded it, and I don't think there are any folks here to tell you that we haven't.
I'm not suggesting that the board or myself is going to get, we're not going to, well, I'm not going to speak for the board. I'm not asking the board to penalize you. I'm just trying to clear up what we can
Understood.
and move forward. And then I would ask Mr. Cordero in the future, being aware of how specific I can be, when you do review, you could ask these questions of the applicant and help guide them along the way. So I don't think we need to take action tonight. There's a couple of questions to
Yeah,
just close it out.
Housekeeping, just
Yeah.
keep the paper clean.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we can go back and enforce 20 years of
Poor oversight?
poor oversight and penalize this applicant. So you're not going to be the canary in the coal mine. But I'm going to continue to bring these up,
Moving forward, yeah, so keep it,
and I do, since we've, you know. And I think as long as we discuss it on the record and make an informed decision, I think it's better to say, look, we discussed this and decided to move forward, rather than we just forgot to talk about it at all.
Understood.
All right, those are my questions. So we have just a list of some paperwork items, and what we can close out, and what we can't, and
we'll make a
we'll
decision.
make a decision. But we've at least talked about it.
Sherry?
Point of order here. You can waive whatever you want to out of the rules and regulations. That's the cool thing about them as well, too.
Right, and for subdivision, under state law, we can waive anything. So we're not hamstrung like we are with some of the other processes.
Sherry?
I just support this effort to line up.
To clear the
What we
processes?
say we want and what we will require with what we actually do. I think it's a good effort. I support Carl.
Okay.
Mike?
So-
Who's gonna police it?
What?
I've been around here a long time, a lot of subdivisions, and they get kinda lost, Val. You know, you don't have people to police it.
That's where the tick system comes into play. They're gonna have to develop a tick system. It's not on the board. to keep track of these things.
No,
It's on the planning office.
And in fairness to this applicant and every other applicant that I ask, we can't be arbitrary and capricious. So if we're not going to hold anybody responsible, or we're not going to hold everybody, we can't pick and choose.
we've had 2 subdivisions come up in the last month, basically with the same problem. One in Cremisa and Candlepiper Lane.
Yep,
Same thing.
and I raised these
It's
issues,
a long time. They go so far, and once they get what they want, you don't see anybody anymore. They disappear.
So, well, now's, I mean,
It's coming back to
It's-
bite us in the butt.
we can only continue to improve the process, and I think that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
okay.
Jane,
I think Carl said,
everything that needed to be said?
thank you.
Sam?
I agree with what Carl said, but we need to move forward. This was 20 years ago. We're not going to get a lot.
No, I think, my personal opinion, if we can get the certified letter to the clerk on the record and close that requirement, that's a simple ask,
Do that tomorrow.
and verify that all of the lots have been recorded at the registry of deed, which is gonna give the homeowners peace of mind. And
And
we can ask for the stamped as-built. I don't think we're gonna get one.
if we don't, we don't.
But I think based on Phil's inspection and his recommendations, I think that combined with the fact that, you know, we can't get it, will give us a chance to move past this. We're just gonna have to let people know going forward that the rules are the rules.
But I'm particularly concerned about the stamped as-built, because it's going to come up tonight.
Well, I think it'll be in their best interest to get us the stamped as-built, because if you don't get a stamped as-built, I don't think your chances of getting the town to adopt the road are very good.
Well, and I'm concerned that the covenant was released without a stamped as-built. So maybe it was done, it couldn't have been, because it wasn't done. I don't know. But we're going to have a project tonight where that's going to come up.
All right, so we've got the letter, the registry of deeds recordings.
Mr. Chair, if I may, how do you want me to prove the registry of deeds requirement? Like, is that a typical condition?
No, it was just an ask. Oh, it's,
I can do whatever you want. I'll try to do whatever you want.
You have access to the Plymouth Registry of Deeds?
Oh, I'm
We all
sure.
do, yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure they do.
okay. If, as I'm going to propose, if you could bring up 1 or 2 of the lots and the title and just see that it's where the road is properly titled. It's either in the HOA or it should be noted on the property title, right, that the HOA, how would that be recorded, Phil? What could he look for?
So you would have the original covenant, and then they would have the document that created the HOA that would have to be recorded. And then, as Mr. Chair pointed out, when Makepeace stepped away from the HOA, there would be a subsequent amendment. All 3 of those should be on file.
Okay, so if
And that would prove the ownership of the road as
Belonging to the HOA.
to
Right,
the
and then it just closes that loop. If you can do it, you can do it. If you can't,
can do
then
that.
we'll just discuss.
We'll just try to clean this up as
I
best we
understand,
can.
yep.
Okay. I think.
It's a certified letter, just to be clear, it's a certified letter requesting what I essentially came here for
It
tonight.
said in the bylaw, I'm going to read it to you again. Let's see. Upon completion, yada, yada, yada. The applicant shall send by registered mail to the town clerk and the planning board a written statement that said that the said construction or installation in connection with such bond has been completed in accordance with sections 5 and 6. I think that's what it needs to just say.
Got it?
Very similar to
Was
what,
that the bylaw at the time?
it's the only subdivision rules and regs.
You ever had?
Oh, wait, holy
Schnikey.
I mean, you're talking 20
Wait.
years, Carl.
yeah, well, this was the 2013, that's only 10 years ago.
So,
I don't know.
I mean, how can you quote present day?
Well, the rules and regs apply as they evolve, particularly if the project's not done.
Talking 20 years.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I doubt,
It's only a letter. It's not like we're asking them to dig up blueprints from 20 years ago. Just send them a letter stating
do
that
it.
you've.
We'll do
You're
it.
willing to provide it.
Yeah, we're going to work. I'm not,
And then, and we'll just close this out.
Yeah, move
at
on.
a meeting like this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Can we
And I-
schedule them?
I,
Can we schedule them on the next agenda?
yeah, I think it's fairly simple. We could select this on.
Yeah, I think we can stick this. If you
Thank
can
you.
act quickly, we can put you right on the next one.
Yep.
That should only be 10 minutes worth of housekeeping.
But this goes back to, that's why every 2 years you should
I agree 100%.
renew it, so,
I agree with you.
okay.
And we'll put you, because of the nature of what's coming up on that agenda, we'll put you on first, so you can
Thank you.
in and out.
Just give us what you were able to find out, and I agree with everybody on the board that we can't correct 20 years of sins, and Mr. Buckland, you see no reason that we shouldn't move forward on this, right?
No, no reason, because there are homeowners in there already.
Yeah, all of them.
Is the town getting any complaints on the road or the subdivision, or?
No, none in my office, anyway.
That's why, part of the reason I said we paid an additional, a lot of money to have the pathways done, so just keep people happy, and, you know, it's a nice neighborhood, so,
Okay, thank you.
It's fully built out?
fully built out.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. We will see you on
I
December.
move, wait, do we have to, do we vote? I move that we
Should.
continue
Continue.
this until December 11th.
December 11th. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We'll see you on the 11th.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next up. Yikes. Discussion and possible vote, Wynwood Pines Phase 1 closure, reset bond for Phase 2, covenant release, and bond for Phase 3. Do we have anybody here to speak to this?
Is Mr. Fay on Zoom?
Fine.
Tim?
Here we go again.
This is ridiculous.
Okay. Ken, he knew it was on the agenda, right? In fact, he was so frustrated we didn't discuss it last time, and I committed to him that we would get it on the agenda.
That's right. He was told about this agenda item being on here and when it would be discussed. And it was his responsibility to make his presentation.
What can we do to get his attention?
Okay, well, I think we can get his attention tonight. I recommend that we request Mr. Cordero to take each of the 3 phases, which he reviewed, and make his report. And we can decide what actions we want to take.
How much money we got is, hit him in the pocketbook.
Well, the big issue that he's got is he can't sell any Phase 3 lots until we complete this step tonight.
Right. Then it can't be that big an issue.
Oh, it's a huge issue for him. And he's got I don't remember what we're recommending to release for Phase 2. It's in there,
It's
I
like
just don't.
$600,000.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a lot of money.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I request that Mr. Cordero come up and,
The house is going in the $700,000 range.
Yeah.
He's got,
And he's
Buildings,
got lots and lots of homes listed on the MLS.
and just one more comment. I believe, and I don't remember if this was on the record or that we had advice from town council that we can't require the applicant to be here.
But what we don't have tonight, I mean, looking at this for Phase 1,
Well, that's what we're going to get Mr. Cordero's report, and then we
right,
can
but
act.
we still don't have a stamped as-built unless I'm misinformed.
Well, that's going to go back to why I made such a point in the previous one. If we waive it for some, we can't make it a requirement here.
Yeah, but this is a here and now project.
I agree, as long as we talk through it and make sure we're making clear distinctions and we're not being arbitrary and capricious.
I mean, the project is ongoing right now. It's not something that was built 20 years ago.
Okay, well, let's hear the report and the recommendation, and,
I agree with Mike, I'm tired of him not showing up, not doing what he promised to do. Frustrating dealing with him.
Sam, I've been around here since this project started, and nothing's changed.
there's no one in the audience representing Mr. Fay. You guys don't want to represent Mr. Fay, right?
You represent the downside.
Right, well, let's do them one at a time, and then
Yes, sir.
a discussion on what you found, and
Certainly. Through the chair, again, for the record, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates. Taking each section of the project individually, we were asked to review the 3 phases and just provide our opinion relative to their status in terms of completion, to allow the applicant to seek reimbursement for certain funds that he's requested through the planning department. With regard to phase 1, I do want to note we were not involved with some of the initial inspections. That was our predecessor, Mr. Rowley. He had a lengthy history with the project. So some of the information associated with phase 1 we gleaned from Mr. Rowley and from the records that were available, so we're just representing that accordingly. We did review the project several times. We reviewed to determine if there were any deficiencies in the constructed condition, any deficiencies within the infrastructure that was not available to us to review, and then also some citizen-based comments that were provided to us through Mr. Schultz, the planning board member. In terms of our findings relative to the inspections that we conducted, we did find deficiencies that were noted in a field report from July relative to pavement problems, some sidewalk areas that were not constructed properly, some various minutia-based items. I'm happy to walk through it for the board if you so desire. We submitted that through the planning department to the applicant as part of this overall request process. They did go out and repair some of those items. We've noted that in our letter. As part of a preview to a follow-up inspection, we did sit with the applicant, with the planning director, Mr. Schultz, present. We made them aware that we were requesting from them an as-built of the phase 1, a certified as-built that was stamped by either a registered land surveyor and/or their record design engineer that certifies that everything that was under the pavement has been installed in compliance. He, with some hesitance, I would say, reluctantly agreed that he would provide that because it was a means to complete phase 1 that allowed him to move forward with the other items associated with phase 2. We did receive an as-built from their surveyor. It was not stamped by a registered land surveyor. It was not stamped by a professional engineer. We have no notice that it was being submitted to us as a draft or to the planning department as a draft, but the point remains it was not stamped. There were a number of deficiencies on the as-built in that various connections to the existing residential structures were not noted for sewer and water. Cleanouts were not noted for sewer and water. Gas gates were not noted for sewer and water. Gas gates were not noted for any of the residential units. We would consider those generally minor in nature. They're drafting errors. They were just not picked up on the survey. We understand that happens, but it really is something that should be put forth on the final plans to be considered complete. Where we had a bigger issue in terms of the as-bills that were provided, there was some areas of the drainage, the stormwater drainage, which is critically reviewed by this board, that were not noted at all on the as-built plan. The lack of a certification from the record engineer is basically asking the town to accept what they're provided to us as equal and acceptable. We can't recommend that to you. Examples of that are within the stormwater basins that they have on site. There were infiltration wells that were to be installed Those were not visible, nor were they noted. They're critical components to the function of the stormwater system. Spillway elevations for higher flow events on both basins 1 and 2 were not noted. We have no way of confirming that the actual stormwater volume that this board approved through those prior calculations is there. There were multiple sections of the drainage system where the inverts between the structures was not noted, therefore we can't confirm the capacity is there that is required under the stormwater that this board ultimately approved. There were several drain manholes not noted on the plans. We have no confirmation whether they were in fact installed, which then means the piping underneath may or may not be in conformance with the plans that this board approved. We would definitely recommend that those be revised at an absolute minimum. Going further, the stormwater basins that they have on site are not at the elevations that were approved. Some are higher, some are lower. That creates variance in terms of the amount of stormwater that is available to be stored. It also creates possible encroachments to the underlying groundwater table, and therefore would not be in compliance with what this board reviewed and approved and what the prior peer reviewer noted in his review. They have modifications that were made presumably in the field. We found no record of a request through the planning department to make field changes where certain catch basins on site that were intended to infiltrate, to connect into Basin 2, do in fact go to Basin 1. While that may seem sort of arbitrary, the calculations are pretty finite that this basin can only handle this amount of water, this one can handle this amount, and when you start reconfiguring those parts without the supporting statements from the engineer saying this is okay, there's an inherent problem there. So that's just sort of a flavor of all of the comments that we gleaned from the as-bills that were provided to us. We did review also Mr. Schultz's comments, the citizens' comments that were raised. Some of them certainly had applicability in that one of the citizens on site noted that at the terminus of Cahoon Road, it was not properly blended with the existing roadways that were out there. Despite the plans indicating that it would be properly blended, it would be of sufficient width and grade elements that exist in the regulations, it ends rather abruptly, and we don't know why that is the case. There's no support without, again, the certification from the engineers to why things are not in substantially compliant form. We don't know what happened. We don't know if there was a construction error. We don't know if there was something encountered during construction. I think all of those things certainly need to be ironed out, at least in our opinion, for this board to review. Other elements in terms of citizen comment, they noted that utility shutoffs were not present. We note that as well. They're not there, and they should certainly be added. They had several areas where sidewalk connections were omitted. Those have since been completed. They were captured on the punch list, so we've made sure to note that. Some of the areas, though, unfortunately, where that work was completed, seems to have been done rather hastily. And because the elements of the sidewalk are considered part of the accessible path, accessible in this context being for handicapped folks, there are certain threshold limitations. Because they appear to have been done rather rapidly, simply paved over what was out there, there are a lot of lips out there. There are the exposed edges that A, would not meet accessibility code, but B, in terms of long-term viability, would likely get damaged pretty easily by snow plowing activities, whether it be a snow blower, shovel, a plow, whatever the case may be. It's really not of good quality, unfortunately, so we note those for the board as well. I think all totaled, in absence of a certification, in absence of somebody telling you that we can review the following deviations that were made, Phase 1 isn't ready to be determined complete, in our opinion.
It never will be. We can discuss, I have a question.
I'm all set, Lynn.
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Buckland, given the engineer report, which I don't think it's too strong to say he recommends that we don't accept Phase 1 as being complete, I'm asking, given that the covenant is gone, the tripartite agreement expired, and there's no longer a bond in place, for Phase 1. Our only recourse seems to be to, well, what recourse do you see that we have? Or what
Well,
do you
we have the rest
recommend?
of the project as recourse. This is all one project, and it's just done in phases. It's all one special permit.
Okay. So we can legitimately consider these concerns as we consider the whole project.
That's correct.
Okay. That's for your consideration. You can see if you want to discuss Phase 1 or go on and listen to the subsequent reports.
I don't need to hear any more about Phase 1. I mean, I think we all know where we stand on that. Mike, you have any?
I can't wait for Mr. Fay to come talk to us.
I'm
I'm
just,
not sure that it's ever gonna happen, Mike. You missed the last three. He doesn't care.
Sherry, you have any?
Mr. Carpetbagger.
So what happens now?
Well, here's my question to you, Ken. Since it's all part of one project, and since the developer is unwilling and/or unable to provide the requested information to substantiate the construction of Phase 1, are we under any obligation to act on Phase 2 and Phase 3? Or can we require that Phase 1 documentation be received, reviewed, approved, before we move on to discussing Phase 2 and Phase 3? Because it seems like that really is where the tripartite is gone, the bond is gone. We have, as the town, we have no leverage of sorts to ensure that this project is being built properly and that the people that are buying these homes are getting what they've been promised.
Can I add to that question? As we consider that, normally, as I understand it, if the bond was still in place, the town could do this work and bill it to the bond. Can we do this work and bill it to the developer without the bond?
Yeah, but what do you pay?
Good question. As to what we can bill it to, I think that this may be appropriate for town council to weigh in on. But it seems to me that since this is all one project, all under one developer, even though it's been split up into different ownerships of subsidiaries to the main developer, it's all one project. And so I think that the money that's being held now could be used to make the improvements to the other phases. And I think this is something you want to get town council to confirm. It seems to me that it'd be best if they were to put up another bond for the Phase 1 to close that out, so that they could then proceed with the release of the covenant on Phase 3, so that they don't have to worry as much about the cash flow issues that they're probably dealing with at this time.
Yeah, but it seems to me that the cash flow issues are self-inflicted.
They're self-inflicted, but it's going to inflict on the town if the project doesn't go anywhere.
I don't think that's a good excuse for not holding the developer to the set of rules that exist. He comes in here and a developer comes in here and asks for the board's blessing for a project. There's give and take. We come to an agreement at the end of the day. They agree that they're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and he decides that he's not gonna do it or not gonna address the board to discuss it. Why does that put us in a position where we need to give in and give him what he wants in fear that he's gonna go bankrupt?
I don't think we have to give him what he wants all around. What we do is we get the performance bond put up again for the Phase 1, so that we restore that surety for the completion of Phase 1.
So how
so
do
we know that we can go in and complete that if necessary.
and how do we arrive at a value?
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Kirk,
By the work that's left over.
can you provide an estimate? I'm sorry, through the chair, to answer your question, is that something Allen and Major could estimate and recommend what a bond should be?
Sure.
If we asked.
We could, but let me just preface it with, there's clear deficiencies, things that can be bonded, that's easy. Where I referenced that there were some structural drainage elements that are just not correct. The first thing is to determine, do they need to be corrected? Meaning where the stormwater basins are at different elevations. The first point is, could they exist in those as constructed elevations? If the answer is no, then they have to be moved, and we could easily establish a bond amount for that. If the answer is that they could stay, the calculations could support them staying, the board would need to decide whether they would want it, whether they would accept that change or not, and then whether or not you have to establish a bond value.
Is he still in the construction? I mean, today, is he building anything?
Oh, yeah.
He's got to
Give me
finish
that.
phase 3. He's got all those lots in
No.
phase
How-
3.
How can we stop him?
Well, he can't sell any of those lots on phase 3 until we release the covenant, which he's trying to get us to do.
So
It's one permit. We can require him to finish phase 1 before he does anything else.
well, that would be my, so,
I'm-
so
I'm-
if we had Mr. Cordero put together an estimate that would put a number on this bond that we're talking about, the only thing it's not gonna solve is it's not gonna solve the as-built.
That's correct.
Somebody somewhere has to say, yep, it's all good, and right now, we don't have that.
Correct. So there are ways to handle that. Obviously, the best way is that the engineer of record provides the substantial certification and their land surveyor provides the stamped plan. That's the best approach. In absence of that, a stamped as-built plan can be prepared under a bonded amount done by others. It would simply tell you what is physically there. Then another bonded amount could have another engineer review that and determine whether it is functionally correct as constructed. So there are additional layers of complexity that could be added, if the board wanted to review that.
And all of that starts with a well-funded 53G.
I can?
It does, yes, Mr. Chair, it does. Somebody needs to be paid. I'm not suggesting it has to be me, but somebody has to be paid to do that work,
So,
yes.
just to get to the point where we have a dollar value for this bond that we're talking about, there's a fair amount of work that goes between A and B,
Yes.
right? So now we still need Mr. Fay's participation to fund the 53G.
You and I have met with him. You've met with him. Ken's met with him. We've required him to be here. He's ignored everything we've done.
Put a cease and desist on him.
I agree. I mean, you and I, Ken and Tim, sat down, had a list 2 years ago.
Same thing I did.
He didn't finish it.
All good. Perhaps if we just got through all of 3 reports, we could take them in toto and decide what we're going to do. Clearly, I think we need to engage town council, and whatever that process that is, perhaps we need to go to church and pray that town council will help us out. I don't know what the process is anymore. But I think we should
Let's hear the rest.
hear, because there's more concerns, I think.
There's more to this, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with regard to Phase 2 of the project, the request was to review the release of value under the schedule of values as agreed to by this board. As part of the initial meeting that we attended, we asked the same question as we did with Phase 1, which is, can you please provide a stamped as-built plan, registered land surveyor, or in absence of that, can you provide a certification letter from your engineer that the infrastructure is complete and has been installed in substantial compliance with the plans, and we can review that and rely upon it as a statement of, a qualifying statement saying everything is in the ground, we take responsibility for it, we in this case being their engineer of record by providing that certification. We didn't receive either one of those. We did receive an as-built plan, again, not stamped, but at least is conditions of what's out there today on the ground, and we reviewed that in conjunction with the letter that we issued dated November 20th. In short, this was only a request for schedule of values to release money on things that are knowingly installed and could be verified. Things like tapping sleeves for water mains, domestic stubs, hydrants, readily, easily verifiable. So our opinion is based on those items and not in a compliance method. Does the drainage work? Is it at the right elevation? Because not enough detail and data was provided on that in order for us to do that. So in short, if the board wants to consider a release of money, we made an adjusted recommendation, whereas the applicant was seeking a release of funds to the tune of $848,588, based on what we could verify is complete based on visual observation and the as-built. We can say $803,296 of material is in place, that if the board wanted to consider that release, we would suggest that as the amended value. But we do go on to say, we don't have a certification from the engineer, we don't have a stamped as-built plan, so there is still gray space in there for phase 2.
How much would remain if we released the 803?
221,543 would remain.
I don't think, well, we can, maybe we'll just hear
Let's hear phase 3.
last 3, and then we've got to take it in whole, I think.
So very quickly, phase 3 is, I guess, the easiest one, which is really establishing the value for the agreement. Based on what this planning board has adopted in terms of unit pricing and adjusted values to account for contingency construction, Alan and Major went through, we did a quantity takeoff of the items that you would typically bond under the schedule of values. This is fairly nominal. It's $44,375 for phase 3. Very straightforward. No discussion of as-built or anything in that phase. Easy enough.
Yeah, and the plan there was to release the covenant, replace it with the tripartite agreement with a bond of,
44,375.
and that would allow
That would allow them to start selling lots.
selling lots.
I think there's too much, to Sam's point, I think there's too much in question between 1 and 2 to basically open the piggy bank farm and let them start taking people's money for lots.
And we're not gonna get done what we promised 2 years ago.
Well, this project's been going on now for how long, Mike?
6 years.
And I'm talking about our involvement though, with Tim, trying to get this done.
He's done this from day one. What you're gonna do is hit him in the pocketbook. I think we should go to town council, see what we can do, and just shut him down. Make him fix what he gotta fix.
I agree.
He's got plenty of money in his pocket.
Yeah.
You can't get his attention by asking him nicely to be here.
I don't agree on shutting them down, only because I think by doing that, we're adversely affecting a lot of innocent people. Contractors and whatnot who have.
What you gonna do? You can't,
Well, if we don't release phase 3 so that he could start selling lots, he's gonna run into a serious money problem.
Well, their property's had a history, I think it's cursed. Everybody's been in there, nobody's ever finished anything from day one. Going back to Perez days, the town taking it over, the town selling it, and everything else. Nothing's ever happened there, because it's a free-for-all. Everybody's gone there doing the same damn thing.
I think in this particular case, my opinion is Tim is his own worst enemy.
Oh, no
If he just paid attention to detail, and like to Sam's point, we've been asking him for a list of
He's-
stuff on
he's in
phase
my
1
alley.
for 2 years. So,
You ask him about curbs, he talks about trees. And like I said, he doesn't focus on an issue.
For the record, I work for Jack Conway. We represent him, selling all his properties. I have friends that have been working on this for 5 years, and they haven't received a commission. And I feel sorry for them. I'm gonna be with them tomorrow, but it's not gonna get done properly unless we get his attention and hurt him monetarily. And he just doesn't do what we ask him to do. As long as I've been here, he's done almost nothing.
Well, the bare minimum, just to kind of
Bare
skate
minimum,
through.
just to say I did something.
So would an appropriate plan of action with input from town council be for Mr. Cordero to estimate the amount of work that it's gonna take to get us to the point where you can identify what needs to be fixed, what can be fixed, aside from the as-built plan, but figure out, all right, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars for your firm to get us to that point.
Is that for just phase one? Because we need the same for phase two. We're in the same bind
Well,
for phase two.
Yeah, okay.
We can't
Well, all right,
confirm,
let's-
he has not certified what's in the ground.
All right, so let's clean this up with one push broom then.
We
So phase one and phase two, get us to the point where, all right, you say, we need X number of dollars put in the 53G account to pay our fees to get you to the point where we can identify how much the bond needs to be to fix all of this. And then, at that point, we present it to Tim and say, nothing's going forward until the 53G account is funded and Mr. Cordero starts his work.
And the bond gets funded.
Right, in the bond, well, yeah, but he has to do his work to get us to the point.
Are we gonna release the lots for phase three before the bond is funded?
I would say no,
Then we should sort of say that in the letter.
yeah. But that, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Right, I think we need to review our strategy and concerns with town council.
I agree.
Okay, so,
I agree with that, certainly, but
I don't see the upside to a cease and desist, only because, how many people are out there working on those job sites? I mean, when I drive by, I see vans and pickup trucks, and those people don't need to be negatively impacted because Tim can't attend to business. That's not, it's not their fault.
I don't disagree, Mike, but to Mike's point, he has never kept his word or done the work on anything, and I don't know how else to get his attention.
Well,
Say, hey, Tim, you're not getting a penny.
We're taking it away from him. We're gonna have Phil's firm figure out how much money is gonna be needed to fix everything that Tim has not dealt with. And once that's done, he funds the 53G for his assessment, then he funds the bond for the amount of money that it's gonna take to fix it, and we take it away from him, and the town takes it over. The bond pays the town, and it's gonna work against Tim, because if I'm not mistaken, if the town does the work, does it have to be a prevailing wage?
Yes.
Right, so
Yes.
now it's costing them 3 times more money than it normally would.
That is factored into the schedule of values. There is the prevailing wage rate is in there. There's a multiplier, but yes, you're correct, Mr. Chair.
So it's gonna be in his best interest to get this over and done with, or it's gonna cost him a fortune to get to the point where he can start selling lots in phase 3.
I would also argue that the value today is different than what was agreed upon years ago when this was done. So be prepared for a different number assessment.
Trust me,
My
I
piece of wood.
believe it wholeheartedly.
Yes.
So, but I mean, I think that's the best path forward without being punitive to the contractors. It's gonna stop him dead. He's not gonna be able to sell lots in 3.
You believe that, huh? This guy is slippery, I'm telling you. Maybe that's how they do business in Rhode Island. You know, you come to our town, he's having a field day.
Well, I think this is our best path forward, assuming that council weighs in and
Why don't we get
guides
council,
us.
get their opinion, see what we can do?
The first step, and I think the new rule says we have to have a unanimous vote of the board to request town council. I believe the process now is that we need a unanimous vote of the board to engage town council. Is that,
I haven't seen that, but I'm more than happy to vote to
I think
engage
that's
town
what,
council.
we got the letter of the policy letter, I believe.
That's correct. You need a unanimous vote of the board.
So, how do you, well, this is probably a better conversation for off the record, so I'm gonna pass on that. All right, so I entertain a motion to engage Wareham Town Council to weigh in on the discussion concerning cleaning up the deficiencies in Phase 1, 2, so that we can move forward with 3.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we have a unanimous decision to engage town council. So if we can get that on his docket so that we can get said conversation underway, that would be fabulous.
So a matter of execution, I believe we should, Mr. Buckland should be there. I think Mr. Cordero would be helpful if he was there
Yeah,
during
if we
discussion.
could have your presence when the time comes. We'll give you tons of notice.
And then I guess you need to be there because you're the, I think, the approved representative.
Yeah, okay, and I'll be there.
Unless you can't make it, and then
Then
you
I'll-
could work with Judith on figuring out who can.
Do we ever have executive sessions where we receive advice of counsel in executive session?
Yes, we have had one since I've been on the board.
This might be such an
This might be, this might be a good situation for that.
Yeah.
So after the review, then we could go into executive session and get advice of counsel.
This executive session is only based on certain actions that are necessary to preserve the public record. And that is, if you were going to be sued, you could go into executive session on this. But since you're not going to be sued about it right now, there hasn't been any threat of suit against the town, then you don't have the right at this time to go into executive session.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll
We'll get clarity.
confirm that with council. That doesn't sound like it rings true, to be honest. That you can only go into executive session in fear of a suit.
Well, there are, I think, 8 conditions.
It's a list of.
Yeah, we would have, I think Ken is right that we would have to fit into one of the
Criteria.
conditions for executive session, but we've had a discussion of a stop work order. I don't know if that qualifies as litigation, but we can explore it.
Okay, all right, so.
I think we can be assured if we shut him down, he would sue us. I think that's
That's probably a
pretty certain.
foregone.
That gives us a reason to go into executive session.
All right, so we've got a vote to engage counsel. So pending that conversation, we would table this to,
We'll continue the discussion on this topic until January 8th. We can't do it on December 11th.
no, it's too soon. Okay. So table this discussion until the meeting of January 8th.
And there's no one from Bay Point out in the ether, right, John? No, I'm asking John.
I have no one raising their hand.
All right.
Okay, so, we'll take a vote just to make it official. So, entertain a motion to move this discussion to the meeting of Monday, January 8th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor, Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you for your input, Phil. We appreciate it very much. I'm gonna take,
Trying, guys.
I'm gonna take N-Star out of order.
What's left?
We have a conversation on the 025 decision, but I'm gonna take N-Star out of order so they don't have to sit through that. if that's
But they're
okay.
getting prepped on what they have to.
Okay. So I am going to open well, I'm going to read the notice of public hearing into the record, and then we'll take a vote to open the public hearing. The Wareham Planning Board will hold a public hearing on November 27, 2023, at 6 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to consider petition 22-23 for a special permit site plan review from the requirements of Article 15, Section 1520 of the Wareham zoning bylaws to NStar Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, of 247 Station Drive, Westwood, Mass., proposing the redevelopment of the cinema site into an Eversource training facility, including indoor and outdoor training areas with associated parking, landscaping, utility, stormwater improvements, located at 37 Doty Street, assesses map 103, lots A1, B1, C1, and D1 in the CS zoning district. On behalf of the Wareham Planning Board, Michael King, Chairman. Entertain a motion to open the public
moved.
hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor, Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there anyone here to speak to the project? Oops, sorry.
Good evening, everyone.
Nick?
Brian Potvin with Civil and Environmental Consultants representing Eversource Energy. Here with me is Ron Miller, the lead architect from CHK Architects, and Jason St. Martin from Eversource Energy. We submitted a full package for site plan review, special permit. I see that you have all of the documents there. I have the plans here and thought I could run through the project in a brief fashion and entertain any comments and questions from the board.
Sure.
Oh, thanks.
Can you see this?
We can barely see you.
Would it be better if I brought this closer?
I'll work off of this.
Okay, you work off of that? Okay, great. So the project is located right here on Doty Street. It's the former Flagship Cinema location right on the cover.
That's one.
You can see the cinema building and its associated parking. It's been vacant, it's currently vacant. Can run through to the sheet C100 shows the existing conditions. The existing theater building vacant sits right in through here. I'm looking at sheet C100. Has a series of parking spaces around it. The main access drive off of Doty Street. And served by water, gas, electric today. There's a private sewer system and some drainage infrastructure. There's a wetland system that sits off to the east side of the property and a constructed stormwater management system, detention pond, that was built to serve the cinema that sits along the edge, on the eastern edge of the property. The property does extend back further east, back over and through here. It's mostly wetlands. So the area of the property that we're talking about sits right in here on the former cinema site.
Have you filed an NOI with the Conservation Commission?
Yes, Eversource has, and we have our first meeting with the Conservation Commission
December 6th.
in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
The reason why we needed to submit the notice of intent is for some minor adjustments. For the most part, the project, you'll see in some of these later plans, stays within the limits of disturbance for the most part, but there is some slight modifications, particularly with the existing pond and some outdoor training areas that has some work within the 100-foot buffer zone.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, just so you know that any final determination we have on a site plan special permit is dependent on their findings.
Understood, yep. I could back up a little bit in that we did have a pre-application meeting with Mr. Buckland and other town staff representatives from police, fire, building department. Following that meeting, we submitted the building permit denial request to the building inspector, who then informed us of the process that we want to go through, special permit, site plan review with you folks, and with the Conservation Commission for the notice of intent. So this is kind of the evolution of that. There was some informal meetings Eversource had prior to that as well, and kind of ongoing throughout. So we're trying to communicate Eversource intentions with various town departments along the way. Flipping over to the proposed program. C200. This represents the site layout. You'll notice that the intention is to use the existing building footprint and the building-related improvements. This will be a training facility for Eversource staff and their professionals to come both receive their in-class, inside the building, classes and training, as well as training sessions in the areas, the kind of previously developed areas within the site. We intend to preserve the existing building footprint for the most part, except for some minor tweaks to stairwells and things like that, but the building is going to remain, the outer side of the building is going to remain intact. Same with the limits of the parking area. And you can see we're proposing these outside training areas kind of in this hatched area that has a series of outdoor training sessions. I could walk through in a general sense what these training areas will look like. On the east side, we have a vault training area. So the idea is to replicate conditions that Eversource technicians and professionals would experience in real life repairs of their energy systems. So they'd be able to receive that training. And a portion is outside. So this one down over and through here is the vault training area. There's, to the north of that is the substation training area. So it's like hands-on outside training. This area on the northeast side is the transmission material storage area. I could deviate, I'll take a little deviation in that the project will be surrounded by a new proposed fence around the entire development. It's already fenced today, but we'll be putting in new fencing along this main entrance. This will be the main entrance will stay the same off of Doty Street. There'll be gated access in and out. This will be access pad only. So folks will, one of the comments from police and fire is that they would have access to that as well in emergency situations. So there'll be new fencing along the frontage and fencing around each of these training areas to restrict movement in and out of here that Eversource would be able to control. Another training area out in the front. I can also point out that the cinema, although it's not built out as parking, it was graded out when the cinema was constructed as disturbed, relatively flat areas here and here. So we don't anticipate a significant amount of earthwork to create these outside training areas here and in through here. This area is the electrified pole area and a non-electrified pole training area. And then off to the edge here is the residential distribution, distribution training area. Then we'll be repurposing this in the existing condition. This area immediately adjacent to the cinema building is just graded out with some sidewalks and grass. We'll be repurposing this as a material logistics storage area, and then another meter training area, and as well as electric vehicle training spaces in through here. Another change that's, I think, is worth pointing out is that you'll see on the next sheet, in addition to its everyday use as a training facility, both inside and out, this will be used as an emergency response location for Eversource in case of regional outages. And so one of the changes necessitated by that emergency response use is eliminating the internal islands and curbing and making that a flat, open area. So we're maintaining the same traffic patterns as out there today, and I think it's worth flipping to the next sheet to see the emergency response layout. So when there is a major outage, this place will be repurposed. The outside will be an area where their emergency vehicles will stay here and park, and these dashed areas within the parking lot are for the trucks to be when they're not being used. You know, so these will be all the line trucks will be coming here in an organized fashion, park when they're not being used, and stage here before deploying out to wherever that emergency might be. Hence why this wants to be easily accessible without introducing the islands become kind of problematic for this function. So I just did want to point that out as well. Although the building will be used in that emergency situation, it's going to be to a limited degree. We'll look to put in temporary toilets, dumpsters, and I think that's pretty much it. And traffic flow, which will be monitored by Eversource employees in that situation, so that folks are flowing through here in a kind of nice uniform fashion. Flipping over to the grading and drainage plan sheet C300. We're looking to preserve drainage infrastructure that's out there today, which is a series of catch basins, manholes, which route stormwater flow for the most part for this major parking area and through here into this pond. We're going to preserve that existing stormwater, and we're going to enhance the drainage to pick up by adding in catch basins on these training areas and route those into this new detention pond. New meaning that it will stay within the existing footprint, but in order to accommodate the additional flows, we need to be expanded a little bit, made a little bit deeper and a little bit, create more volume for this to handle. I should mention that this will be a gravel treatment underneath the training areas. So it'd be like a crushed gravel area that there'll be a fair amount of activity in there. So it will be pervious to a degree, but we've designed it as such to catch any overflow, stormwater flows, to capture that and to route it and treat it prior to discharge at the existing location down into the wetland system that sits down and through here. There is also some underground stormwater management that picks up the roof runoff, and we look to preserve that and maintain that as well as part of the project. Back in the rear here, these are underground stormwater units. Flipping over to the utilities plan. Water serving the property, and we will maintain that connection. Have a new connection just to tie into the building, but we're going to preserve that water. Same with sewer, we're gonna preserve the existing. The flows and demand for this new use are significantly less than the peak flows for the cinema, so like to reuse those systems as appropriate. We will be pulling a new electrical connection because some of these training areas and pads will have sheds on them and other things that will require power. So we're gonna connect one connection point down at an existing utility pole here and route that back into the new building and then disperse throughout the site to hit these pads that require electric and telecommunications. We'll also be putting in new site lighting, which will have security cameras on those. Those are designated here and here. And then we're going to preserve the rest of the site lighting as existing. Flipping over to the landscaping plan, as we're looking to expand these training areas out towards Doty Street, we acknowledge that we'll want to enhance the landscaping between the training areas and Doty Street. So we're proposing a series of good-sized trees all along the project frontage. We'd look to maintain the landscaping that exists on this main entrance. There's some nice pine trees that are on this edge, as well as the main drive coming through. We look to preserve those trees that are in there and enhance the landscaping along the frontage. I think that's a very quick presentation of the project, and happy to, entertain any comments and questions. This, in addition to the drawings that we submitted, we submitted a project impact statement answering several of the questions that you asked us to as part of the special permit site plan review. We submitted a stormwater report, and as well as the other required application materials and applications as part of this. So, very, kind of broad brush summary of what we're doing, and happy to entertain any questions, comments, and try to do our best to answer them.
Thank you. One question, well, I have a couple questions, but the one question, I see a lot of concrete pads in the substation training area detail. Is there gonna be any battery storage on this facility?
Excuse me?
Is there gonna be any kind of battery storage as part of your training process?
No, I don't believe there's any battery storage. I think the only small piece of battery storage was the EV section to the left, but their EV charges, there's no batteries.
Yeah, I'm not talking about batteries like a car. I'm talking, energy storage batteries,
No.
BES.
Can I follow on to that question while we're on it? Regarding battery storage, I met with some of your representatives at one point. I was, for the emergency response plan, I understand that new, modern, evolving emergency response plans have containerized, trailerized lithium battery for emergency response. Are you planning to have any of those on site during an emergency? You know what I mean? Like, take a Connex container, you got a battery in it, it's on the back of a truck, and instead of your generators like you used to do, you use batteries.
So we do have those, but not for this project. So those are housed, actually, we're housing one in Yarmouth, and we house one at Mass Avenue at 2 of our service centers, so the technicians can deploy them from those locations.
so
But
you don't
there's no
have to-
training, this isn't, they will
No,
not.
but not for training, but during an emergency, would any of
They
those?
would not be located here, no.
Okay. That was my follow-up to that question.
The other question I had was the truck layout for emergencies. I think I counted 92 spaces. Would you anticipate that all 92 spaces would be would be filled?
During a major storm event, yes. And the reason why we look to remove the islands, we dense pack those trucks, and then assuming there's a major power outage, gas stations are closed, so we have fuel trucks that come in, drive between the aisles of vehicles and actually fuel
The
on.
trucks?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to assume you've got, on one page, you've got parking with handicap parking, and then on another page, you've got emergency truck staging on the same spot. So it's when there's an emergency, it's all bets are off. The trucks are parked wherever they're parked.
Correct.
and
Basically, two functions happen. When the emergency response protocol happens, their train shuts down. All the people go into the emergency response mode, including all the executives and everything that basically attends to that until the power is restored. And after the power is...
This facility just shuts its doors other than to
The
support
only,
the
the only thing you will
emergency.
stay open is inside. We're gonna, there's a lunchroom area. They're gonna keep that open for people to come in and grab food and go back out to the trucks and so on. You know, we designed the inside facility to have the occupant load for the toilet count and so on. So that's why we also bringing in additional porta potties to house and
those all
accommodate
go
the
away.
outside.
Once
Those
the
all go
emergency's
away.
over, those all
Yeah.
go bye-bye.
Yep, we bring in flaggers, we bring in directional signage, we bring in porta potties. Like Ron had mentioned, the cafeteria as usual, bring in boxed lunches so the guys can get their safety assignments, go through their safety training before they go out, their assignments, they grab their bag of lunches, and then they go.
It's almost like a small little military operation where they come in, they bring in a mobile command center, they basically operate at a command center where all the trucks pull in, get their orders, and leave the facility, come back and refuel, and, you know, that's basically the mobile area where they command out of.
The only other thing that caught my eye, and this is, seems a little bit on the petty side, but I'm gonna toss it at you anyway. On the landscaping, you've got, you know, you're putting up trees, bushes, all that stuff on Doty Street. Oh, do you plan on doing a better job of attending to those than you did to the screening on the solar facility on Toby Road?
So I know this has come up before, and I know it's come up before, so, and
It's
I
just a
don't want
sore
to,
spot.
I am a little bit ignorant to that, because, so my job is to manage facilities operations. I don't have anything to do with the solar, and I'm not trying to deflect the question, but I can
know what I'm
assure you
talking
as a
about.
facilities manager, my sites are in good shape, yeah, so I can definitely say that, yeah, our sites will be maintained. I'm not sure what's happening at that particular location, but I know it's come up before. For some reason, the solar farms have seemed to be, and it's not just Wareham this is an issue, it's come up in other towns as well.
We did speak,
sure
I have the name of the individual we spoke with, a public relations guy or somebody, when we did the approval at the other site down the street, and he committed that he was going to solve that problem.
What was the problem? Sorry to interrupt.
The trees aren't being maintained, the grass isn't being cut.
Trees are dying.
I mean, it basically took, you know, a bat over the head to get the grass cut. so that
All
it
we
didn't
want
look
is,
like a-
So they survived, they were
Well,
planted.
No, there was die-off.
Yeah.
The die-off, you could see the holes between two trees where a tree was supposed to be, but it wasn't there anymore. I
yeah.
know they
and-
did, I was
and-
leading up
yeah.
to that.
Well, because, I think because they knew these guys were showing up.
So too, 'cause the timing is very suspicious.
Okay, that's interesting, yeah.
You know, all summer long, it's the same thing, you know, the grass, they wait till the grass is 2 foot tall before it gets cut. And
And we already have enough complaints about solar projects in town that just, that one is so visible because everybody in town goes to the mall and then goes out and looks right at that solar field. And
so, like I said, it's just,
I'll look into it. I know that there's agreements between Eversource and others, and I don't know if we own this particular parcel, if we're maintaining that solar, to be honest with you, I can't answer that question.
well, it wasn't so much that parcel in general, other than we're not gonna have the same problem here.
No, I can assure you that's not the case.
okay.
That's
So you're aware of it, and if you want to know, I'll find out who we talked to. I think I wrote the gentleman's name down.
We can talk offline, I think I know.
Actually, I have an individual online, Anthony, who says that he has taken over. I will let him in so he can speak to the matter.
Will he be responsible for
He will not be responsible for this location, but he can definitely make sure that the solar is addressed.
To Mike's point, all the dead trees have been replaced, and only within the last
Couple
2 weeks, 3 weeks. So, it's,
That's
like,
good, there's been progress, it's good.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, that's what we'll call it, progress, yeah. So, okay. All right, that's all like that.
Well, did this person want to get let in?
I don't know if we can really add anything to it. I mean, the complaint about the dead trees has been addressed, so.
We're okay for the moment, I think.
Is this campus going to be connected with the other piece on that site, right on the side of the bottom?
It is not, there's wetlands, and it's
Connected, you mean physically, like an actual access? Yeah. No, it will not.
So there's no.
There's a wetland boundary that
Right,
comes
there's no cranberry bogging, right?
Yeah.
all through and here, in between the
Now,
two.
on the other side, over, they just put a parking area in, and I notice now it's become a training area.
At 5 Doty?
That was supposed to be a parking area.
It's
when
supposed to be
first came here.
parking for trucks that are awaiting repair.
Repair or sale or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's totally opposite what you guys said when you came here last year. And I noticed you just knocked the house down where the little post office used to be. You're gonna do something over there too, so you're gonna have the whole strip, except for Granny Stringer's house. And they're waiting for him to die, I guess, he's on the other side of the farm.
So I can't speak to, I'm actually confused that you're saying that that area was turned into training. I'm gonna have to look into that, I'm not sure.
Because I know in the back, you got all the poles in the back. You know, I work next door, so I watch the guys climbing and stuff. In that area that they just put in, they were gonna put crushed stone in, it was gonna be for vehicles, for parking and for sale or repair or whatever. And it looks like a training area now.
Because I know there was a few poles adjacent to that lot that they were using for training, but not on the actual lot itself.
On that lot, yeah.
Oh, I'll drive down, because you and I walked that site before we closed it, and if they've added poles since then, that's a change.
Yeah, they're in there.
So that we would need to notify inspectional services, and that's a violation of the permit. I'll drive by. You remember we walked?
Oh, I remember, vividly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do a drive-by at some point.
Also, I'd like to add one other thing, that in one of the pre-meetings we had with the police chief and fire chief, they mentioned this particular site up in the, basically left-hand corner of the parking lot. They currently use that as a evac for the helipad, kind of,
see
and
them
so
coming
on.
in all the time.
And we were talking to them, they asked us if they could maintain that, and I believe that Eversource did agree to maintain that as emergency response for the helipad or helicopter to land there. So they'll have access to that. I think there's some sort of a, agreement that's gonna happen that basically, they'll send a notification to the facility person that's there, and they'll clear out any vehicles in that area so that they can land a helicopter. I just want to add that to the conversation.
It's gonna be a training site, so people, when they come training, they're gonna bring their cars and park on that site.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, you realize when you come off of Doty Street onto Route 58, that's a terrible intersection. Terrible.
Correct. The amount of the vehicles that's going to be flowing through that parking for the training people are going to be far less than what used to be the cinema. So I just wanted to point that out as well. The occupant load is going to be far less, hence the reason why we also have fewer toilet fixtures and other facilities. So definitely the vehicle flow is different than the cinema, because cinema you had constantly vehicles going in and out, and the larger volume of vehicles, depending on where the movies are showing and so on. They pretty much operate, early morning to come in, 7 to 8 o'clock. They do the training, and they'll leave towards 3 o'clock towards the end of the day. So it's sort of a schedule.
During the training, do they stay on campus for lunch, or do they?
Yes, there's going to be a break room area, not a full-service kitchen, but it's going to be an area they could.
That they could go, but there's nothing that stops them from venturing off campus to go get lunch?
No.
No.
Yeah, we lose right down the street, so.
Should be happy.
Ms. Clerk?
So this is a new training. Turn this off. This is a new training facility. Is it a transfer of operations from somewhere else?
Correct. So our training right now is very fragmented. Eversource has obviously become, it's a large company. We used to be NSTAR Electric. We have Western Mass Electric Company. And our training is really fragmented at our service centers where the linemen work out of. So there's pockets of training throughout our territory across the state. They want to bring that all under one roof to consolidate the training to a state-of-the-art training center. I know the training department visited other utilities across the country. It's something that has happened. We actually have something similar in Berlin, Connecticut. Not quite the same, but it's similar. Our gas operations has the same exact type of operation that has out of Shrewsbury. So the trainers feel like they just get a lot more out of having everything consolidated. All the linemen, the craft workers know where they're coming. It's just a better operation to not have it so fragmented, so.
And is this like daily training? Do they come here for a week or so? What's it gonna be like?
So I'm not a trainer. I won't pretend to be. I think some of the training certainly would be, classes that would run weeks. Some of them might be a day of trainings. It might be, one conference. It depends on really what they're training. So the training is for substation operations to, play and tinker with the stuff that they see in the field without actually getting hurt. It's our meter folks that are unplugging and installing meters. It's our overhead, which can, climb poles and install transformers, and then also our underground, which can, basically, we're simulating underground, what they do every day underground. So again, the training is it differentiates.
Does this have anything to do with sort of expanded activity by Eversource in terms of the distribution system upgrades that are being proposed? Like the Plymouth Study Group, the various other study groups in the area seem to indicate there's going to be a lot of construction of at least distribution level equipment.
Transmission level, isn't it? I believe, what you're referring to is the high tension lines they're replacing?
Not so
She's talking
much.
distribution.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
okay.
is like the substations. A lot of it is to connect the solar that is being proposed for the area. And so a lot of it is going to be at the distribution level as opposed to transmission.
I don't think this training center is being built in relation to expanding distribution in the territory.
Right.
I can't speak to distribution in the territory and the construction schedule and what takes place. Again, I'm just a facilities manager, so I manage the facilities the craft workers work out of, or their corporate offices as well. So, but I don't think this training center has anything to do with our expansion of distribution in the area, as it pertains to any solar or things like that.
I think the whole purpose is to take all the fragmented training in other facilities to kind of bring that all together so that this area has all the resources for these people to train on, so that, if you need to get trained on overhead, they have to go to this facility. They have to go to a different facility for substation. Why bring it all together? We want that to be one area that ever get trained on in one source. So it's more productive for Eversource to kind of get these people all trained and up to par with safety and so on.
Makes sense. Thank you. That's all I have.
One question that popped into my head, so if you've got in-depth training where somebody comes in and they're there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, depending on the training you're conducting, where are they gonna stay?
Well,
There isn't a truckload of motel options here.
yeah, no, they're required to commute to and from the facility. I mean, they are not staying over at the facility, they're not staying.
Well, I wasn't suggesting they were staying at the facility, but I didn't know if you had plans for how to house them, where you're gonna house them. I mean, I'd be a little twisted if I lived in Danvers and I had to drive back and forth to Wareham, every day for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I know that wouldn't.
I will say these are bargaining unit employees, so all of that is negotiated, so trust me, they'll know up front.
Okay.
In a way, the other facility, that's kind of how it's done, like the Shrewsbury is the main training facility for the gas operation. and people from all over New England kind of go there to get trained.
Right,
Is it
but-
possible, though, they would stay in hotels close,
Potentially,
depending
if,
on the
it-
person's?
depending on where they come
I
from.
can't
Well,
say
the-
for
the reason-
sure. So I know, like Berlin, for instance, I think our Western Mass Electric folks, I'm not sure how they're gonna split that training. You know, it may be 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. Do they go to Berlin? Do they go to Wareham?
Right.
I don't know how training's gonna do that, to be honest with you. But I can say that there was never a concern about the location of this facility as it pertains to where they could potentially have to house students.
Right. Well,
Never.
the reason I bring it up is, you know, watching housing challenges as they are these days, and knowing that there's only one hotel in town. And it's a decent-sized hotel, but it's busy, so, you know, you're gonna have space limitations. I didn't want to see a situation where the utility company said, all right, we're running into housing issues, we're gonna go out and we're gonna buy 10 or 15 small 3-bedroom homes and take them off the market so that they're available for people coming in for training, because that would be a problem.
I could certainly never, I would never anticipate that. What I will say, for storm response, I can say what happens, because those people do need to be housed. Obviously, they need a place to stay. So we have a whole food and lodging group, and there's a lot of them, and that's one of the first resources that are deployed, is to look for hotel rooms for these crews that are coming from, I mean, as far away as Michigan, Quebec. So all of that's done prior to them arriving to the location.
But it doesn't involve taking housing stock out of the Wareham market to make sure that you've got that stuff in the ready.
That has never been a topic of conversation. I can't, no, I don't see that ever happening.
You know, my mind starts to wander, and I'm going, oh, you know, somebody who's thinking ahead is gonna go, all right, we need to identify 10 $350,000 basic houses that can house 2 guys to a room, 3 bedrooms to a house, there's 10 per house. That's the way I would be looking at it, because there is no hotel space here.
I think there's 3 in Middleborough, 3 or 4.
Most of that function happens during ERP, where, you know, again, these people come from all over the place, and they basically, what happens, what I was told is that they set up buses, they put the people on buses, leave the trucks
'em
here,
somewhere.
and they take them whatever they need to go for hotel rooms, and they stay there overnight, pick them up in the morning, bring them back, shut them off, and they're on their way. And they do it nightly. It's like a small military operation where do this. They have a whole division that basically plans this all out in advance, and kind of happens, and it's kind of really interesting to see.
And so most of our Instar Electric territory is on Eastern Mass, so, and it goes out as far as Southborough. So it's really not, to be honest with you, not that far. You know, between Southborough and Western Mass, I think that's where training's gonna decide. I don't know if Western Mass Electric folks are coming here or they're going to Berlin. Good question, but it's never been a concern. But when I see Instar Electric territory, it's Southborough, and then you go up maybe as far as Waltham, and then you're south from there. So it's not a,
So it's not coming from Pittsfield or something?
no. I can't say they wouldn't have an event for folks, because we do own territory in Pittsfield. We actually have I manage a facility in Pittsfield as well. But they're not coming here every day for training.
So I just wanted to voice my concern about housing stock being bled from the market, you know, to address that kind of stuff.
I don't think that has happened before. I don't think that's the intent of Eversource to do that.
Well, we've always, as a board, we've always been kind of a half a step behind developers, so I just wanted to put it out there.
I think as far as economy goes, I don't think it's a benefit for them to do that, because if the training happens once in a while, also ERP only happens when there's a storm, it's not a benefit them to own a property just for that function, and that's it. That's why they mostly house these people in hotels. It's a one-time function, you're done, and you're moving on.
We're obviously a regulated company. I'm not sure that would be favorable to ratepayers that were scooping up houses and just sitting on them.
I'm sure it wouldn't.
Having worked for a utility, I'd be really surprised. That's way, way too posh for,
Yeah, well, during major storms, we house 4 to a room at the barracks at Joint Base Cape Cod, so a nice home in Wareham.
There's no room there either.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, I have some questions. Regarding stormwater management, catchments and such, I'm assuming we're going to get a peer review, so this will probably be, but if you're going to be parking utility trucks for the emergency situations, oil leaks and such, are we having catchments and separators?
there's
To-
a page here for that.
Okay, so that's all taken care of. You've planned for the oil runoff and collecting it and separating it and,
To a degree, we've incorporated oil-water separator kind of at the end prior to discharge into the existing stormwater basin, and all the catch basins, the existing ones are deep sump catch basins, so that'll collect some of any potential spillage. So that's how we've addressed.
all right, so we just have to determine if it's adequate. And particularly also if you're bringing tank trucks in, you could theoretically have a gas spill when somebody's trying to fill and things like that. So we just want to make sure, I mean, it's normal, it's fine. But we just got to make sure we account for some bad event.
Yep.
Again, on the stormwater management plan, there are several places in the operations document that say this operation should be performed by the responsible party. This operation should be performed. No, it needs to say will be performed by the responsible party, I believe.
You're talking
Because-
about the stormwater operation and maintenance
Yes, yes.
after the project is
Right.
complete?
Yeah.
What are the requirements of Eversource
Right.
post-opening?
Yeah, because if you use the word should, it's like somebody could go out and say, I'm not sure I'm going to do that today, as opposed to saying you're going to do it is, I think, a stronger statement.
We will look at that.
Yeah, and thank you. And it's like mowing the lawn. It's not should mow the lawn, it's we will mow the lawn. And then in section 5.1, general, in the definition of responsible party, when discussing transfer of ownership, please include a requirement or a clause that says when there's a transfer, if there's a transfer of ownership, notification will be given to the planning office as well as, or I should say, transfer of ownership or transfer of responsibility. Notification comes to the planning office and to the planning board. And just note that we may want to have a discussion, because you say that these conditions all flow with that transfer. We just want to make sure that that happens, and that anybody who's accepting that responsibility sits there and says, we agree. We will, not that we should, but we will do
Understood.
these things.
and that they're as strong an entity as Eversource is.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know
was
if we can commit to that, but.
Yeah, yeah, we've had some issues about transfer of ownership, and the receiving parties are not as financially sound as the sending party, and that's a concern. But at least we want to get notified that it happened. You answered my question about the batteries. You answered Mike's question about the batteries. You discussed traffic. I don't know if we need a traffic flow study or not. I'll let the peer review make a recommendation. Do we agree that your traffic patterns are consistent with the assumption that it's going to be less? Is your view that everybody's going to come in that one entrance off 58, not from the other direction?
Not from here, yeah. I would say that's a fair assessment that.
Because going the other way is a lot of traffic going the other way is dangerous, because you have
It's
to
like
cut it.
that Y.
And then you got to
intersection.
cut across the highway and take your life in your hands. Okay.
Do you have any plans on updating Doty Street?
Currently outside of, any improvements that we make along the property boundary here and installing the fence, no current plans to.
I know now, when that road wasn't meant for commercial use, even though you guys are down the road, so they use it all the time, a lot of big trucks. It's a little wavy, it's kind of a glorified dirt road, it's not that wide. It's not that wide, and there's a lot of traffic.
Doherty
that
Street
cuts
itself?
across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're coming in from the end, as you said, you're not going to deal with most of that.
Well, the thing is, if that property goes down, Kyle, after the bend, they own that property all the way to the Y, except for one little house.
Right.
And, if we can get them to improve that road, it'll help everybody, them and us.
Okay.
It's a safety factor.
Well,
Something
that's something we can consider.
They got plenty of money, so,
And the money comes from the ratepayers, so.
Yeah, we pay a lot.
Yeah, it's coming from you, Mike. You can.
Yeah, I pay plenty.
Those were my initial questions, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else from the board?
Yeah, he answered. Consider with batteries, of course.
Yep. Jane? Okay, being a public hearing, there's nobody in the room unless Phil wants to speak. Is there anybody online that wants to weigh in? Not at this time. Okay.
I have a question for the board.
No, you can't speak.
You're here, you could.
Go ahead, Ken.
We got a call from the building commissioner who said that the applicants before you were interested in starting work on the interior of the building before the site plan review was issued. If they're still interested in doing that, they can voice that opinion now or that desire now. I think it'd be appropriate to consider that since the site plan review and zoning doesn't apply to the interior of a building, it only applies to the outside and the envelope of the building.
Ken, didn't they have a demolition permit when they did the inside?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The building commissioner didn't complain at that time, did he?
No, I didn't. No, I just wanted to get confirmation from the board that it was copacetic to proceed with interior work.
That doesn't count
while the board
as
is
site.
reviewing the exterior.
That doesn't count as site prep ahead of approval.
No, that's not part of the site. That's part of the building code issues.
It's part of the you're splitting hairs, but
I think if it's within the confines of the building, as long as it passes muster with the building inspector, that I wouldn't have an
I
issue
think
with it.
the commissioner was balking, and he just wanted to make sure it,
Yeah.
As long as-
We're pursuing two different, separate permits. Basically, the reasons is that we want to, try to stay on schedule to construct the interior of the building as soon as possible to get that going. We're making some modifications to the building footprint a little bit due to the fact that the existing stair that's appendage does not comply with code as far as, the width and so on. So we're expanding it to make it comply with code. That's about the only change to the footprint of the building.
which does affect site plan.
Right. I would say concentrate on, if you're gonna be working on the inside of the building, you contain your efforts to the inside.
I mean, correct. We could look at,
Eversource is good with that, sorry to interrupt.
Go
but Eversource has issued a construction contract and has a construction contractor on board, which is just evidence of their, the importance of the timing of getting started on this.
Right, but
So the
as
board
long
knows.
as long as that work is contained to the inside footprint of the building while
Understood.
this process is going on.
Understood.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have a problem with it as long as the building commissioner's okay with what they're doing.
And as long as the advice from the planning office is that it doesn't constitute site prep ahead of approval.
It doesn't count as site prep before approval.
That's what our scope is.
Yep. Okay, so at this point, we would be waiting on, obviously, Concom.
And
weigh
peer
in,
review.
and the peer review. So you would coordinate with the planning office on the peer review to fund that ever-present 53G. And,
What's your schedule? I mean, we're trying to figure out how to fit you into our schedule.
Yeah.
When are you hoping to begin?
So we'd like to start the interior construction,
No, site
so
prep.
site prep.
Site prep outside?
I think we have some time. I think there were,
We're kind of getting very close to the winter conditions.
Right.
So I think we're more or less trying to pursue the building permit to get the building going. And we'll probably just do the staging of the site just to get the contractors on board. And then I think the majority of the site work is probably going to happen in the spring at this point.
so we don't have to rush to get you back on the schedule, which would take time. It would give Phil the time, so he doesn't have to rush. And it would give you time to deal with Concom, because who knows what's gonna happen with them.
So just to clarify on that, Concom, we're running those processes kind of concurrently. What I'm understanding is that you'll wait as the planning board to issue the site plan approval once the notice of intent is acted on by the Conservation Commission.
And the peer review is complete.
And peer review is complete, and we're to initiate that with Mr. Buckland, the
Correct.
peer review process.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha. So you wouldn't make a decision here contingent on Conservation Commission approval? That happens first, then?
Correct.
Okay, understood, yep.
can I just ask a question? So how do we make it official and get word to the building commissioner that he can actually issue a building permit before this process is complete?
Ken, if we,
If you're going to take
take a vote to ask you to
Vote.
reach out to the building commissioner,
yeah, I'll pass that on to the building commissioner tomorrow.
okay? So, first order of business, entertain a motion to request the planning office to reach out to the building commissioner with the information that the planning board has no concerns with building work within the confines of the building footprint, can commence at any time, assuming that he's okay with your plans and such.
And there was official letter that was submitted today, I believe, this afternoon, on behalf of our contractor to the commissioner.
Right, so Ken will reach out to him, give him an official okay for you to proceed. So we just need a vote on that. Do we have a motion?
Sure.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Sam
Getting a
Corbett,
little
seconded by
punchy.
Jane Gleason. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike? Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Next motion would be to continue this public hearing.
Well, we're scheduling January 22nd now, right?
I was gonna get my 2025 planner.
I was gonna ask for December 11th.
Yeah. I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, right now, 22nd is not good. Ken, do we have any, like, up-and-coming A&Rs that are gonna have to get stuck onto an up-and-coming meeting? Or are we?
Not that I'm aware of at this point, but, they come in at any time, but I haven't seen any at this point.
I mean, technically, we have time on the 8th.
But will Phil,
There
he's
won't
got
be enough time.
he's got
What do you
Christmas
think?
and
45 days? 6 months?
No, I would say 2 to 3 weeks
Okay.
is what we would need.
22nd's already, I hate to do it to you, but the 22nd's already starting to, well, that's not horrible. How's the 22nd? That works? That'll give you roughly
Is that January
8
22nd?
weeks,
Yeah.
January
Oh,
22nd.
January 22nd.
That'll give you roughly 8 weeks, Phil. Is that enough time?
Plenty.
Okay.
Well, we do have a meeting on Christmas. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, we can.
That's what it takes, we'll do it.
Second, fourth one.
So I'd entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to January 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
You have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you very much.
You too.
All right, I have one thing. Oh, we still have one more thing to do. Discussion and possible vote for the 025 decision. Started reading it.
I read it.
I read it.
Comments?
Ken did a great job in writing it. Unfortunately, when we voted, we didn't make all those findings. The only finding we made when we voted
The buffer.
was the setback.
Right.
I don't know,
You haven't
How-
voted yet.
I'm sorry?
You haven't voted yet.
We did
You
vote
closed
to
the hearing, you didn't vote.
We-
You can make your findings now. That's what the purpose of the deliberations in the 65 days after you close the public hearing.
Okay, well,
You're
that's
allowed to go
fine.
through
If-
the record and make your decision at this point.
Okay, with that, that's, I don't know that that's the way the motion was voted, but that makes me more comfortable. Okay, well, then in terms of discussion, and it's 9:10, we didn't discuss all of the findings around health, safety, and welfare, the aquifer. I mean, Ken wrote them up very well, and those were language and terms and things that we talked about, but we didn't sit down and say, this is where, I don't know what the right word is. It's a finding.
This is why I wrote it as a draft. This is where you discuss it and make your determination as to whether or not you agree with what I wrote down.
No, that's what I'm moving on from you saying, okay, that's what we're doing, and I'm saying we haven't done that yet. So I think we need to, we have 65 days to complete this from 2 weeks
From
ago?
the close of the public hearing.
This doesn't have to be done in a public hearing setting, does it?
No, this is not a public hearing anymore. This is just your deliberations as a board.
In an open meeting, though.
So we,
In an open
We
meeting,
can
that's
have an
correct.
off-cycle meeting, right?
yeah, I mean, what I visualized us doing was going through the various findings
Yeah.
and seeing whether we agree with them or not.
But if we commit to an off-cycle meeting to do that, this is
That's
it.
fine.
Nothing gets added to that meeting other than this.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that's what we're doing, because my concern was when we voted, whatever we voted on 2 weeks ago, we didn't say all these things.
Right.
There were parts of discussions over the
Correct,
the term,
correct.
but you're right.
So I'm okay with the way the planning office can, like I said, he did a great job of writing it.
You did a great job.
I just didn't know that we ever found those things together.
Yeah.
So I do have maybe a question or request for when we do discuss it. I looked through it, and there are some references to the Horsley presentation or Horsley materials, and in what we have, at least in the written record that we can find in our documents, I can't find the support that we have put into this decision for some of the statements that are made. And I don't know if it was because he said a lot during the meeting, and that's where the citation should be. But I would find it helpful if we had some more of a tie-in between some of what we cite as authority or parts of the record, and where we can find it in the record.
Right, okay,
I'm
so-
worried that on appeal, we could be, if this does go to appeal, that we could be vulnerable to not having appropriate record support for what we've done.
Good, and I think we should do that. I do believe that in addition to his verbal testimony, the Wareham Land and Save the Pine Barrens Water and Eels Committee did send a written summary of his,
Yeah, I guess I did find the presentation he gave us, and I didn't find the support that I was.
Okay, so let's, as we get ready, I think we did get
Okay.
a letter from them, but maybe it was just his presentation.
No, that's great. I mean, I trust you.
They also made reference to his testimony in Carver, because he testified to the same things in Carver.
Can we apply that?
If it was entered in the record,
Yeah.
and that, I don't know if we can substantiate that that was done or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and anyway, these are the important thing is for this board to discuss the various points, make sure that of what this board wants to make findings on, and then to determine whether we think it's sufficient to base our decision on. And I think if we could devote a whole session to that, that would be fantastic.
Being a public hearing, then,
It's not a public,
But
it's
it's
an
a public
open,
meeting.
it's an open meeting,
so
yes.
it has to be posted.
Posted, yes.
So the first available would be,
2 weeks from today. Oh, that would be Christmas, never mind, no, it's not Christmas.
Christmas. No,
Oh.
2 weeks from
It
today.
is already a
It's
meeting.
already
The
booked,
11th.
so we would have to be the 18th if we want to get it done before the end of the year.
I'm still here, so,
I'm still here. Not by
On
much,
the
though. I
18th.
think I leave on the 20th, so. And I won't be back till after the first of the year.
yeah, so when was 65 days, when do we turn into pumpkins, Ken?
Days or so.
65 days, from today, it's,
Yeah, it's 2 weeks since we,
yeah, so it's
Roughly 50 days.
51 days, or 50 days from tomorrow.
So if we meet on the 18th,
That gives us,
it's the only thing on the agenda, we iron it all out,
and it still gives us time if we need to have another meeting.
right? Yeah, it leaves the window open. Okay, so
And do you think we should notify the applicant so they could at least hear the deliberation?
I don't think it's a bad idea, as long as they understand they can't participate.
Well, yeah, and because neither can any of the
Nobody,
citizens who are desperate to weigh in on.
okay? So entertain a
Some outside
motion to
consultants?
schedule
Any haste?
an off-cycle meeting for December the 18th for the subject of the Zero Route 25 decision.
The only subject.
The only, that's it. You gotta tell that to Ken. He's the agenda staff.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
second,
We have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Sherry Quirk. All in favor? Sherry?
aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam? Carl?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
So
Thank you.
we need to get that posted, and is this room available, or do we have to do like room 27 again?
Are you meeting,
Don't know, we'll find out.
are you meeting on a Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one else meets on a Monday?
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, that's kind of why I picked it. All right, cool. All right, I know it's late, but I have one thing I want to talk about before we go. And it goes to this whole as-built inspections, 2-year times, enforcement, 69 Great Neck Road. 69 Great Neck Road is Paul Andrade, 5-lot subdivision approved in March of '22.
It expired.
No, it expires this March.
It's on my list of.
Right, so it expires this March. That's not my concern. My concern is, it's been dormant for a year. There hasn't been anything going on there.
He's got a road and some gravel.
Well, what he did was, he dug all the trenches, put all the drainage in place. You can see the manholes and all of that. It's all been buried, and there's activity like bees on honey there.
Oh, he started doing
Yes.
something.
So my
We haven't had
question,
inspections.
thank you, that's my question is, I asked the planning office if there was any evidence of inspections. They say, no, there is not. So,
Yeah, we don't want to get into a bind where,
well, if we turn our back to it, we're right back to another Bay Point.
yep.
So do we?
Mr.
not-
Chairman,
What's that?
I talked to Charlie Rowley. I had an email conversation with him anyway, and he said he had done inspections at that subdivision before he retired from his position.
Do we have the copies of those inspections?
I don't have them as yet.
Then we don't have an inspection.
Well, he said he did the inspections, and I trust him that he'll have a report about that as well.
Well, I trust Charlie impeccably, but that doesn't solve the problem we've been discussing, which is a lack of process and a lack of supporting documentation.
And we should get Mr. Cordero to do a preliminary handover inspection. I
Yes,
would think.
I would think that would be an
Review
internal.
of Charlie's material and then
Right.
start.
So, right, so is there a 53G and is there anything in it?
I'd have to check. I don't know at this point.
Okay, so I would think, from the board's perspective, that we would ask the planning office to verify if there is a funded 53G and then authorize Phil Cordero to review Charlie's findings.
And report on December 11th. We could add a staff report at that point.
Yep.
On the agenda. Let's put a place on the agenda so it doesn't get, you could do it at the end, and we could always,
So I would entertain.
because I don't think we're going to talk about Fearing Hill on the 11th.
I don't think so either, but,
Haven't heard a word.
yeah, nothing.
Have you heard on the court case, Ken, on Fearing Hill?
There's been no action that I've heard about, so I doubt it's going to be done by December 11th either.
Okay. All right, so I would entertain a motion to authorize the planning office to reach out to the applicant to fund a 53G to support the
Ongoing inspections.
ongoing inspections and review of claimed prior inspections.
Right,
What was it? 69, Great Neck?
yeah.
Drive by it every morning on the way to the gym. Every day.
You can't miss it.
No.
So moved.
We have second?
Second.
We have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Sherry Quirk. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, Sam, it's yours.
Please, motion to adjourn.
Second. All in
Aye.
favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Nay.
Jane? Sam? Carl?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you all.